framework of an agreement on reciprocal and fair and balanced trade, which is essentially a lot of words for capitulation. The needs have been met. Trump is going to get his way. American foreign policy is probably going to successfully end the war in Ukraine. I'm very hopeful that happens. Powell has said from Jackson Hole that it looks like we're going to get rate cuts for everybody out there. Bull run! Crypto, stocks, gold, bullion, prices going up means economic well-being for everybody. There was the expectation that tariffs would massively increase inflation. In spite of the media actually trying to So I've had this open on my desktop for probably this is how you do fake news. This chart shows how prices have gone up because of Trump's tariffs. So they show this chart. And the chart starts October 2024 and it ends July 25th. And they show this modest gain from 1 to 1.01. Look at that. Look at that pricing index. That's their big rise. The predictions of doom and gloom haven't happened. And the reason it hasn't happened is, as I presented on this channel months ago, the world was faced with a choice. Trump came in, talking real tough on trade, talking real tough on certain aspects of foreign policy, rejecting the NATO consensus about wanting to start World War III and kill us all, which was a very good thing as opposed to Kamala Harris, who was guaranteed to embrace it. Now, there's been some stuff, water that's gone under the bridge in the meantime, but things are looking a little bit better right now, and we should all be celebrating that. How are they looking better? The world had an opportunity. Europe had an opportunity. Canada had an opportunity. China had an opportunity. Japan had an opportunity. The world had an opportunity to come together and make a decision to sink America, to sink the American economy, to go to trade war, if not fiscal war, with the United States. And they had that option to embrace the pain, tank the dollar, take it down, preserve the rise of BRICS, do all these different things. But instead, what they've done is one by one, they've sought to appease the United States. Now, they all know, because they've already done this in 2016 to 2020, if they weather the Trumpian storm, 2020, they get a new president and maybe a return to their favorite policies, which they got under Joe Biden and their favorite approach to the world. But instead of embracing the pain and instead of embracing a trade war and a conflict, one by one, they've all been to Britain, Europe, China's working on it. Everybody just wants to get on with doing business. They don't want the domestic pain that an extended reordering of the global structure would take. And so they're postponing it for a little while longer. And Canada is one of the last countries to figure it out. We've been signaling a totally wrong foreign policy for both the governing liberals and the opposition, who are just all, and I know Aliyev hasn't used the term elbows up, but he's certainly used language which has been very insulting to the United States, has damaged our reputation with them. So this is the first move in the capitulation, where Carney capitulates to the United States. There's other things going on out there that shows, for people who are discerning, that Canada's in really bad shape. Now, we know Canada's in bad shape. We've talked about housing, we've talked about money laundering, we've talked about the drug trade and crime, we've talked about inflation, we've talked about how nobody can afford to live. We've talked about how nobody can afford to live. People can't buy real estate in Vancouver and Toronto. Yet, at the same time, there's hundreds of thousands of net new migrants coming into Canada who should have money, if we were doing our immigration system right, to pay the exorbitant rates. That's how it was when Daniel Smith says everything was fine 2 years ago. That's how everything was up to 2 years ago. We have a lot of rich people coming in, helping to drive the cost and put things out of reach for Canadians who've been living here for 1, 2, 3 generations already. why I disagree with Daniel Smith's assessment that everything was fine 2 years ago. It wasn't. Immigration was still too high. That was the conditions. These were the conditions that were creating the rapid rise in asset prices in Canada, creating this huge bubble that we're all victimized by right now. I don't know what she's talking about. It really frustrates me. But anyway. Fed up Canadians say no one at CRA is taking their call. The union says it's set to get worse because Mark Carney is going to lay off, 3,000 employees? 3,300? 3,300 call center employees have lost their jobs since May 2024. Consequently, says the union, on average, fewer than 5% of dollars are actually reaching a real region. So, under the Liberal government, and I've actually said this before, prior to the Liberal government, I didn't have a whole lot of sympathy for the Canada Revenue Agency. I mean, who does? But with the creation of CERB, that's kind of where the problem started. It was CERB, it was the business loans, it was all the activity surrounding the so-called pandemic. They created all of this work for the Canada Revenue Agency. Then they told the Canada Revenue Agency, first off, they created the programs, and then they said, we don't have a plan for how to administer it. That's the bureaucracy's job. So they created all these ideas, and then they threw it at the CRA and said, you deal with it. At the same time, we're going to cut the number of employees that you have, which I'm not really against, by the way. I mean, a smaller, tighter CRA is probably good for everybody. But the issue is, it's not smaller and tighter. Because of all of the work created, clawing back those CERB payments, chasing after those business loans, doing all the things that the government of Trudeau said, you just go and do. The entire system of tax collection in Canada, except for those who are voluntary payers, which I'm one of them. I mean, the whole system rests on voluntary compliance. That's the big secret in the room. There's a lot of efficiencies built in where they tax at source, and there's a lot of problems with taxation at source, but that happens. So if you're an employee, the taxes are taken from you through the employer on behalf of you and paid to the Canada Revenue Agency, and then they tally up at the end of the year, give you a refund. That's kind of that whole process. But for millions of people who are self-employed or capital gains earners or earn in different ways, voluntary compliance is the statement that keeps the thing alive. The system relies on the honesty of people to want to obey the law and pay their taxes. When the CRA can't even answer the phone, that system of voluntary compliance is threatened. That's the system of tax collection is on the verge of being broken. So, in spite of the fact that the government can just go across the road to the Bank of Canada, borrow money whenever they want, create money out of thin air, and then spend it in excess of what they bring in, tax revenue is really important.
Hello everyone, welcome back. I hope your day is fantastic and I hope your summer is going great. Now I want to talk to you about something that I noticed as I searched for news online about trade deals, about different countries making different trade deals. When you type in Google, in a search, you type world trade deals or country trade deals or anything with the word trade, you get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of results. That are basically U.S. makes deal with Japan, U.S. makes deal with Indonesia, Trump makes deal, new U.S. trade deal. And you click any of those thousands and thousands of results, and basically all you read about is, well, what tariff level the United States imposed on a certain country. These are not trade deals, but the U.S. government has been successful in forming this narrative by just speaking as if they are trade deals, and talking about trade deals and telling everyone that they're making trade deals, that's what we find online. When in reality, the situation is that the United States has imposed an import tariff, a tax on imports from all the countries on earth. And when you search through the internet and the media, I guess they portray this and present this as each different tariff level is a different deal with another country. So I spent some time sifting through the cloud of BS that were presented online. What I'm going to show you in this video is actual deals that are happening, real deals. Before we get into that, let me just explain what the American deal is right now. The American deal is that the United States is taxing imports. That's what a tariff is. It has a funny name, tariff. And they could have called it import tax. Like, for instance, when you go and buy something and you pay tax, that's a sales tax. That's a tax that's imposed on sales. The consumer that buys the product pays that tax. There's also something called an income tax. We all pay income tax. You pay tax on your income. Who pays the tax? The person making the income. Then there's something called an import tax, which is also called a tariff, and it is a tax on imports. Who pays the tax? The people that do the importing. But because it's called a tariff, and a lot of people have not heard the word tariff before, the U.S. administration has been able to lie, and it's easy to lie because they don't refer to this as an import tax. They call it a tariff, and you can easily lie and say, well, we're going to put tariffs on China, and China's going to pay. So they just lie, and that lie is sufficient to convince 10, 20, 50, 100 million Americans that the United States is doing the right thing, and those terrible countries that have been ripping them off for years and years and years are finally going to have to pay. And that's kind of a statement on the level of intelligence of the average American. When you just imagine this, there's probably, let's round the number to 50 million. Many countries don't even have 50 million citizens. There are 50 million Americans that actually believe this lie, have no ability to critically think or inform themselves, are completely ignorant of the topic, but are willing to just believe this, when in fact it will be them that actually pay this tax. As importers import material, pay the tariff to the US government, and then try to sell those products that they had to pay more for, they will raise the prices. And these misinformed people that believe, well, we're hitting China with these tariffs, will pay more for everything. And then the US administration will inject more BS into the cloud of BS that we live in, and blame the higher prices on maybe Hunter Biden's laptop or whatever. They'll come up with an excuse that the uninformed masses will believe. So while the United States is taxing all these imports from other countries, and they're claiming in the media that they're making deals with all these countries, this is spun as a positive thing. Look at all the deals we're making. Look at all the money we're making. We're hitting them back hard. We're making them pay. While that BS is being spewed, this is the reality reported here in the Yahoo Finance. The country that was hit the hardest by the United States tariffs, China. So we're going to make them pay. We're going to crush them. Those pesky, terrible Chinese have been ripping us off far too long, and we're going to make them pay. Well, the headline is, China's exports grow despite tariff turmoil as trade pivots to Africa. Because the United States is taxing imports from China, they're going to cost more in the United States, so the people in the United States will probably buy less of them because they're going to be unwilling to pay higher prices. Well, China just pivoted, and according to data released on Thursday, the nation's exports surged 7.2% in July from a year earlier, while its imports grew at the fastest pace in a year. The Chinese export economy is booming. What about Canada? We were hit very hard by U.S. tariffs. Well, here's a headline here on CBC News. Canada signs deal deepening European defense and security partnership. And here's our Prime Minister speaking at what was usually the EU summit in Brussels, but this year was called the EU and Canada Summit. And at that summit, Canada agreed to participate in a $1.3 trillion defense procurement program. Canada will be part of that. Canada is forging ahead with different deals with different countries in the EU, like Sweden. Reported here on CBC, Canada to acquire Swedish-made anti-aircraft system to protect troops in Latvia. Canadian troops in Latvia will soon be protected by a $227 million Swedish-designed short-range anti-aircraft system. And in cooperation with Sweden, Canada will start producing ballistic protection systems domestically here in Canada. And this story represents a real trade deal, and I had to search hard for it. Canadian defense manufacturer Rochelle is partnering with a Swedish steel company so it can produce ballistic protection steel domestically for the first time. Here's another example of a real trade deal reported here in The Guardian.
I want to buy a home with my boyfriend. We've been dating for a year. Because if you're renting, then it's like, all right, it's kind of just giving you a door to leave.
You sound insecure.
I feel like when you're committed to a house, it's gonna be...
You are trying to trap this thing. What if you're logic that makes it make sense to purchase with the boyfriend?
You're not just gonna be yelling at me, okay?
That's actually what this show is, so yes, I will. Bundle all of my educational programs I've ever made, plus the premium version of my budgeting app for not only 80% off, but also with a free trial today at DollarWise.com. Join the tens of thousands of people who changed their lives and join DollarWise Central right now for free.
Hi, I'm Camila. I'm 26 from Phoenix, Arizona, and this is Financial Audit.
Thanks for coming to Austin. What do you do for a living in Phoenix?
I'm an insurance agent, so sales.
Sales. Very commission-based?
Slightly.
Okay.
I feel like it's more salary. The salary's heavier than
What's
the
your
bonus. I'm making $2,800 every 1st of 15. $2,800.
Net?
No, net it's 21. So after taxes, I'm taking 21 home.
Okay.
So 21
Every other week?
Yep.
First
Every
15th?
1st and 15th.
Yeah, you're buying
And then,
yeah, we like that.
and then the 15th, I get the bonus. Bonus usually rates from like $300 max to $1,000.
Okay, so what is that averaging? Like, what would you say, like 5, 6?
I put it at 400.
Okay, averaging 400, and that's net 400?
Correct, net.
Okay, so you're at 4,600 a month. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So you're not doing bad. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, I was gonna say, not too bad. I mean, talking net out in the middle of the desert, okay, we're at $55,200. So compared to the median income in the United States, you are beating them. Congratulations. At 26, you are beating them.
Yeah.
So you're killing it. You're doing well.
I think I could do better, but I think we all think that, right?
Well, I mean, that's probably why you're on the show.
Yeah.
Which was gonna follow into my next question. What's going on here?
I'm a spender, dude. I just love to spend. I love clothes.
You love clothes, and this is not typically what someone, no offense, looks like when they say, I love clothes.
Oh, your t-shirt. It's a cool t-shirt.
I can't even tell what's going on. When someone say they love clothes, they're usually glammed up, and they're, you know, they got something going on that...
Sorry, I'm not that special with the t-shirt.
No, it's just that special. It's more a little, you know, wrist slitty than anything. So it's just not usually what I kind of go with that. We'll see if that's where your money goes. I guess if you're just buying graphics tee all day.
Yeah, so shopping, a lot of drunk shopping, get a little sippies.
Sippies?
Sippies. Sippies.
Huh?
Sippies.
Okay, and Sippies is drunk shopping?
Yeah.
Is what I'm putting together?
Drunk shopping.
Okay. How often are we drunk shopping? What does drunk shopping look to you?
I feel like I've toned it down, but I don't know, like sometimes you just see something and you're like, I want it now. We might die tomorrow.
I'm talking drunk shopping.
Yeah.
Huh? Oh, interesting. Okay.
I mean, it's not that often, but I will say usually the big purchases, the bad purchases are done.
And what are they? What does that look like? What does that mean?
It means...
Well, I'm trying to understand you.
Yeah.
You have to kind of walk me through what you are.
It means like using credit cards when I shouldn't, using a firm when I shouldn't, and just buying whatever I want.
Can we be honest? You sound fucking reasonable then. What the fuck is the problem? Listen, if I came in and I had some kind of issue and I was like, this is my issue, I shouldn't do it, it's a problem, then I wouldn't be struggling. You sound reasonable. What the fuck are we talking about?
I thought it was time that, I had someone just kind of like rip me a new one.
What do you mean by that?
I know what I should be doing,
Then
but
why
I don't
aren't you?
do it.
Why?
I don't want to. Like,
I know what I should be doing, but I don't do it because I don't want to. Good.
Yeah.
So let's see another conversation.
No.
Well, if you don't want to do it, then what the fuck are we doing?
It's just sometimes, like, it just feels better to buy it. I don't know.
Oh, it absolutely does. So what are we doing if you don't want to?
I mean, I've been drinking less, that's for sure.
Congratulations. What have you gone down to? From what?
It used to be, like, probably, like, 4 days a week. Now it's like just weekends, Saturdays.
Okay, so 2 days a week.
Yeah. A lot better than 4. In my
Sure,
opinion.
well, I don't know what that looks like. Were you having a drink or were you just getting completely blacked out?
No, I would probably do like 3 drinks max.
Okay, which, I mean, you're a little thicker, so you can maintain it, right? So it goes a little further.
No, yeah, so I'd say like 3 drinks max. Weekends usually though,
Yeah, well, this is an alcoholic auto, so I don't really
Sorry.
get, if I'm being honest.
Yeah,
Uh,
going too deep in that.
yeah, like, no offense, that's not what I'm here to talk about personally. I mean, certainly if it's affecting your finances and you're saying you're getting sippies, that sounds like it's affecting your finances a little. And if we want to talk about that, that's fine. But, I'm trying to get a baseline. Like, what the f are you saying? You're saying it's bad, I know it's due, but I don't want to do it. So what am I doing here?
Yeah.
Are you drunk right now?
No,
It seems like it.
no. I just kind of just want a roadmap to get the, like, I have goals. I want to buy a house.
But you just said you don't want to do what's required. So what are you talking about?
I guess I don't know what to do.
No, you literally said you know what to do and what's the problem. You just don't want to do it.
Yeah. In the moment, it doesn't feel as bad, and then I'm looking back and I'm like, bro, I didn't even have the money to spend on that, and I still bought it.
Why did you do it?
Because in that moment, I wanted to.
Okay, and you're saying you're not willing to change that. So what are we talking about?
But, like, in my opinion, I don't think my finances are that bad, considering that the bills are paid.
Didn't you start the conversation with, I spend too much and I'm bad with finances?
But the bills are paid, so it's
You
probably
make
bad.
no sense. You were saying just endless contradictory things. You make
And
no sense. I don't know, because this part of the conversation, so guess who's here, guys? That's Eli Gold! There he is. Big guy, how are you?
Hey, how's it going?
Hi,
Great.
it's going well. So, chat's here. You got thousands of people watching. By the way, I did forget to say, please consider becoming a member on YouTube. Eli, yesterday was the big day. Everyone was asking all over online. You know, we were wondering here in the office. Tell us. Big
Yeah,
day.
all my friends too, like I promise you, the past 2 weeks have been saying 820, 820, every day in the group chat's 820. So, I'll say, yeah, I know, right? New States Coming chat's been waiting too. So, we do a recap and everything. Maybe by obviously the gold part, if that sounds good to you.
Yeah, get it. Hit it, man.
Yeah, so financially things have been going great. I think on your show, I was like in the 600 range for the credit score. Well, I'm in the 700s now. Like your advice, really cut back on the food, like the cooking at home. My girl's an amazing cook. So, yeah, I'm sending a grilled chicken, keeping stuff simple. And
She stayed with you.
yeah, she did. And and actually, this has just showed like how much loyal and support she is. Like, she's been a key point to it. And I remember getting home from your show, man, how I felt exhausted after. It was like a delayed effect. And she did really good at just being there, you know, after all that. And, you know, with all the comments and everything, things can get pretty crazy. So,
Sure.
it's good to have that support there. I am a human too, like everybody else said. We do feel things, and you know, sometimes stuff can be rough. But besides that, financially, I think on your show I was paying about $6,000 a month. You know, managing these debts and expenses, all that. So now I brought it down to $4,800 a month.
How'd you do that? Well, okay,
so-
so 1,200.
Yeah. So I did that. One thing was just, again, I kept paying down, taking the extra saving from the food and paying off these cards because the credit utilization was like really dragging down my score. So I really wiped that out on most of my cards now. And because of the higher credit score, I was able to refinance at like 15 to 17% range. Whereas before I remember it was like 25, 29%.
Is that what's actually going to help you, though? Or is it the cutting back that's going to help you? I mean, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I appreciate that you did that, but sometimes when people do it, they think they made the progress, so then they slow down on other things.
Oh, no. I mean, it's just a start. I'm still strict on the spending, very strict now on it. I think the show is like a switch flip in your head, you know?
Yeah.
Really appreciate that. But also, yeah, too, I'm paying less per month, which is great financially. You can breathe a little more. And also saving that extra to help, you know, pay off the other debts and really just bring this down. I mean, again, you also be proud to say I have not put a penny towards any form of any business investment.
Thank fuck. It's the first time in your life. But,
Right.
but thank fuck.
I know, right? So
Getting a lot of the golden chap. Like, keep going, you're good.
Yeah, exactly. So we went ahead and just got all that stabilized and the priorities to stabilize. Of course, working on my dreams and goals still too, but also we wanted to sit in reality financially too to keep my head kind of, you know, in a good space. So financially, things have been going really great, I would say.
Good. Well, really proud of you for that.
Thank you.
Well, yesterday was a big day. The chat wants to know, and I want to know.
Yes. So, okay, so when we picked 820 because we had this big meeting. These two guys flew in from out of town to meet me and my partner like in person. So we had drinks around the dinner, and really just like, these guys routine were doing a lot of construction, real estate. They got kind of tired of that. They had a lot of capital for it. So one of their buddies was actually doing the very thing that me and my partner have been working on, flying some gold to Dubai. So for the past 4 months, they've been just kind of helping pay, shipping and export for him to do that successfully. And they reached out to us because we're like, well, we want to find someone who has more of a direct contact. Like they wanted their own supply of gold, basically. And so we told them, like, look, we have the mine, but we don't have things moving yet. Yeah, we need to rent equipment and get things moving. So they're like, well, we may be interested in helping you guys rent all the equipment to get stuff started. So we had a couple of weeks of discussions, and we went to the point where, like, look, we told them you could come out, with us to go through the mine and visit. So our partner's been there already a couple of times, so he can give them the full tour.
And you haven't been once.
I haven't been, but I want to change that soon. And after seeing all the comments and everything, I want to do like maybe even a video series or something, me out there personally, which I think will be great. And maybe we get you involved somehow too. Yeah.
Caleb is good fucking luck.
Well, you would love it, Caleb. But anyway, so we even showed them like our technical 43101, like mine report, the land. They're like, wow, this is actually really great. But then we noticed they were like dragging things out of it, like asking a lot of questions that gave us both the feeling they were like fishing to figure out how to actually do mining themselves.
Oh.
Keep in mind, they've only been paying money to their buddies, been flying gold to Dubai, giving them kickback for each delivery. So we realized they were trying to get into Uganda themselves or figure out how it works. Yeah, they were.
It's almost like everything involved.
Mr. Carney, thank you for taking our questions. Your critics are going to say that this is an elbows down approach, that you're backing down to Trump. What are you gaining by dropping these tariffs?
Mark Carney puts his elbows down, turtles up, surrenders unconditionally, and now trying his hardest to spin the entire thing. Welcome back to the Canadian Shield. My name is Sterling. Mark Carney held a press conference today where he announced his unconditional surrender to the United States. Now, he's trying to spin this in a way that if I wasn't so invested, I would be laughing my head off, right? Like if it wasn't a Canadian and I heard and was following along the history of this, where 1 minute the guy's talking about how Donald Trump is an existential threat and he's going to hold his feet to the fire, and they're intensely focused on, negotiations and all the rhetoric and all of what turns out now to be complete fabrications that came out of the liberal side from the election forward. It's been a lot of tough talk. It's elbows up. We're going to be in a trade war. They're threatening our very way of life. To now, we have the best deal in Canada in the whole wide world, and our numbers are spectacularly low compared to some countries, and we have to work with the United States in this new framework. There's no talk about how he's going to make trade partners with the EU and all. It is a total and complete unconditional surrender. I don't care how he's trying to spin it. Nothing that he's trying to spin isn't something that wasn't true the day Donald Trump enacted the very first tariffs. So the best you're hoping for me to understand is that it only took 6 months to catch up to the rest of us.
Canada currently has the best trade deal with the United States. And while it's different from what we had before, it is still better than that of any other country. So as we work to address outstanding trade issues with the United States, it's important, it's vital. We do everything we can to preserve this unique advantage for Canadian workers, Canadian businesses. And doing so will require both building on a soon-to-be revised PRISMA, or Free Trade Agreement, as well as developing a new form of trade for partnerships with the United States. In this context, and consistent with Canada's commitment, because I'm announcing today that the Canadian government will now match the United States by removing all of Canada's tariffs on U.S. goods specifically covered under PRISMA.
There are so many things going on in that one particular statement that they are trying to talk about. They want to gloss over the fact that Mark Carney and the Liberals have been running up and down the country talking about existential threat, talking about, Never 51 and all of these other things that they were going on and on and on about trade war. And here now we can see that it's not a trade war anymore. Now it's, well, we have the best deal in the world, so Canada should be happy with that, and we got to do whatever we can to preserve that deal. Unfortunately for Mark Carney, we had that deal when Biden was still the president. We had that deal on January 20th when Trump was inaugurated. We had the best trade deal with the United States. So nothing has changed then, is what you're saying. That no matter what you told the voting population, no matter what you told them, absolutely nothing has altered. Well, I shouldn't say that. I guess there are some things that have altered. We have lost an entire season to develop our own internal economy. We have lost an entire season to get jobs and shovels in the ground. All the while, all the guys and all the people that are working those jobs down in southern Ontario, well, they're being laid off left, right, and center. So we are going to be spending a lot of borrowed money to give them supports and retraining and all the things that come along with that in this liberal idea. And we've decided to put together a new bureaucracy. So I guess we have spent a lot of money on nothing. We've thrown away a lot of money and made the government larger. Mark Carney has run around the world realizing that nobody is interested in his approach to anything. The EU shut the door in his face. Donald Trump shut the door in his face. In Southern Asia shut the door in his face. And so we can see that in truth, Mark Carney was a horrible decision for Canadians. What is amazing about this press conference is a couple of the reporters actually was pushed back a little bit. And Mark Carney wasn't happy with that. You could tell that he was uncomfortable with his, bought and paid for with Canadian tax dollars. Press corporation saying to him what is obvious to everyone who's not in the room. Mark Carney has completely changed his position. He has surrendered 100%.
At pretty much every stop during the election, you referenced that was up and saying that was going to be the strategy you take with the Americans. You also consistently said that Donald Trump is going to break us. Your new argument today is that Canadians should accept basically the best of the bad deal. What's been the change?
Wait. I reject the premise of that question. Okay? We have the best. Look at the numbers. Our tariff is 5.5%. We have 85% of our goods free trade. It's not what we used to have. Nobody had a deal with the United States that they used to have. Nobody has. They have fundamentally changed. They're right. We respect it. They have fundamentally changed.
Well, Mr. Carney, calm down. There's no reason to be yelling at the reporter. He's only pointing out the truth. You did run up and down this country talking about existential threat and trade war, and we weren't going to back down, and all those kinds of things. Now you're doing a complete reversal in that position, and you are trying to cover your embarrassment. You should be embarrassed. You should be embarrassed because you overreacted. You said a bunch of stuff that was designed to entice people to vote for you, and then you completely failed to come through on any of it. So I get that you're embarrassed. I get that affects you. You saw it. Oh, look at the numbers. Look at the numbers. I have been looking at the numbers, as a matter of fact. I've seen the numbers of our debt shoot up through the roof. I've seen prices for homes shoot up through the roof. Prices for food shoot up through the roof. The amount of unemployment, people unemployed shoot up through the roof. The amount of people that don't even have that safety net anymore and gone on with social services shoot up through the roof. I've seen the amount of people being brought into the country with no place to live and no jobs to give them shoot up through the roof. I mean, there's a lot of numbers that I've been looking at, a lot of numbers we've been paying attention to. I've seen you promise that we were going to be able to sell our steel to Europe. They're not interested in buying our stuff. And yet still, we have had Melanie Joly flying to Europe. You're going to Germany next week. Not 100% sure how that helps Canada. You could have been in the House of Commons working on these problems. You could have been in the House of Commons repealing many of the bills that are in the way for the development. We need development in this country, like I have been saying from the very beginning, because we have to stop allowing the world to treat us like a giant piggy bank. We have to stop letting the world come in here, take our natural resources, and take the money generated from those natural resources back to their own countries. And that's exactly the philosophy that Trump has come to the table with. Now you're saying that it's Trump's right. Now,
Yeah. Well.
Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome back to the Fringe. If anybody didn't expect this was going to happen, I don't know if anybody knows, we had a federal election back in April. And our current Prime Minister ran that election saying, I'm gonna fight Donald Trump. I can't even say it with a straight face. I'm going to get everything settled out. I'm going to get a good deal for Canadians. I'm going to handle him, Pierre Canton. I'm the man. Yada, yada, yada. We saw the elbows up crowd, the chicken people, all doing their little dance at the polls, saying that, oh, I think he's the best person to handle Donald Trump. How's the elbows up crowd feeling now? How are they feeling now? Don't know what I'm talking about. Let's just get straight into it. Let's show an article from the good old Clown Broadcasting Corporation. Oh, this just makes my weekend. I don't know about you guys. How are your elbows feeling now, folks? Canada removing retaliatory tariffs on compliant U.S. goods. Tariffs on U.S. auto, steel, aluminum will remain for now. I mean, Donald Trump won. He won. This is where I've said for the longest time that what is going on between Canada and the United States, it's all by design. It's all part of the plan. Mark Carney even said himself in that one interview, policy pushes profits. So what you have now is Justin Trudeau went down to Mar-a-Lago to sit with Donald Trump. Trump asked, hey, if we cut you guys off, what's that going to do for Canada? He says, well, but destroy us. He showed him his cards. Mark Carney went down there saying, I'm a tough negotiator. Trump said, no, you're not. No, you're not, Mark Carney. I'm shutting you down. And Carney kind of said, okay. And he went home. Doug Ford says, let's do dollar-for-dollar tariffs. This is Team Canada, ladies and gentlemen. Donald Trump said, I don't care what you're proposing. It's not happening, okay? You guys are losers. You're all losers. I know people like it when we do Trump on the channel. Some people don't. Some people think it's silly. They need to go get a lollipop, maybe. Feel better. Trump just smacked Carney in the face. He won. Canada will remove all tariffs and goods on the United States that are covered by the Canadian-U.S. Mexico Agreement, or CUSMA, by September 1st. Prime Minister Mark Carney announced on Friday.
I can tell you definitively, you are being lied to. What is happening on our streets is nothing less than a takeover of
Here we are today. Out of the picture is the victim. That's one of those very phones. Let me read from the NFN. Surrey Police Service officers are investigating a shooting incident at the Royal King Banquet Hall located in the Pale Business Center. According to police, damage to the exterior of the banquet hall was discovered by staff at 1 a.m. on July 21st, 2025, where it was confirmed that the damage was consistent with gunfire. So this is just one of the many examples of the 330% increase in extortion-related crimes since Liberals lowered the penalty for extortion. They removed mandatory prison sentences for extortion with a gun. No wonder crime is raging out of control.
Like why?
Crime,
Why would they do that?
FOSS, immigration, housing prices are all out of control after 10 years of Liberals. And Mark Carney promised to be different. Instead, everything is worse. The deficit is worse under Carney than it was under Trudeau. The crime is rising under Mark Carney. Our economy is falling with $60 billion of net investment fleeing our country since he became Prime Minister. Not a single new pipeline. So not a single new proposal for an LNG plant or nuclear plant or port expansion has been made since Mark Carney took office, promising that he was going to reverse weak liberal economic policies. In fact, he's given a gift to President Trump. $60 billion of Canadian investment has fled the country in less than a half a year since Mr. Carney took office. And speaking of trade, he promised he could handle Trump. He said that he could negotiate a winning deal. So far, American tariffs have doubled on Canada, and we're now losing a trade war with China, which is hammering our farmers and fish harvesters. As Mark Carney fails abroad, Canadians pay the price here at home. And nowhere is this more true than in the area of crime and chaos. Mark Carney has not only failed to change a single liberal law, he sent his MPs home for the summer with crime up, inflation up, the deficit up, and elbows down. And not a one action taken to reverse the liberal crime chaos that we came to expect under his predecessor. And he put in charge of crime his two most incompetent ministers. First, he's got Sean Fraser as the Justice Minister. This is the immigration minister who caused the immigration crisis, and the housing minister who caused the housing crisis. Now because of those failures, he's in charge of law and order. And then he's got a public safety minister who doesn't even know what a gun license is. So how can he fight gun crime? The incompetence you have to have as a prime minister to name such terrible ministers would be laughable if it weren't so terrifying. Because the people behind me today are paying the price for this insanity.
It just goes on. Canadians care about holding their leaders accountable. You're okay with whatever shit shows absolutely says nice things in PM.
Our public safety minister, Gary Sangare. I always struggle with his
Yeah, Canadians are super complacent, but what I'm asking is, do you think they're stupid? Do you think the majority of Canadians are like highly stupid?
This is the guy responsible for our federal national public safety portfolio. It's absolute madness. And so anyway, Polyev goes on. Yeah, we have a campaign dedicated there if you want to learn more about who Gary really is, and calling for his firing to be, not to be on the public safety file anymore.
They thought he was bluffing. He wasn't. President Trump has now just announced phase 2
Canadian culture that
of
leads to
mass
this kind of
deportations project. And I'd like to know in the comments below how you feel if you're in the USA. How do you feel about the, I was about to use the word success, but I want to leave you to sort of put your own opinion below. But how do you feel about phase 1 now coming to a it's not quite a closure, but coming to near completion. So what they've said is that they have been able to remove so many of the people they were really focused on. These were some of the drug traffickers, the serious criminals. They've got all sorts of convictions. They've been able to, they knew where they were, they sent in ICE, they've removed a lot of them now. So I'd like to know your thoughts on this. From me reading all the data and the statistics, it looks very positive.
If they aren't doing the research or thinking critically for themselves, they're essentially following the herd. And that is pretty dumb.
All sorts of things are, in terms of negative things, are down massively, and it seems as though from some of the videos I've been watching, that
Wow, you got a lot of photos in front of volcanoes, don't you?
because 1.5 million illegal migrants have self-deported themselves from the country. And I just reading all these articles today on it, and some of this stuff is just crazy the way they spin it. And let's put out a massive hit piece.
Volcanoes represent power, don't they? So, naturally, I associate myself with symbols of strength and dominance. After all, I am a goddess.
After you hear what they said. Now, even with phase 2, which I was reading in detail this morning, it still seems very positive. The media is spinning it that now they're going after law-abiding citizens. Everybody they want to get out. Trump wants to just throw everyone out of the country who isn't white. And all this absolute nonsense. They come up with the most crazy spins possible.
Right,
so actually what they're saying in phase 2 is they're going to be reviewing all 55 million people who are on visas. And even within that, they say that they're just looking for people who have overstayed their visa, who have criminal convictions, and things like that. They're not actually looking to get rid of law-abiding people, you know, people who are foreign people in the country who are working there legally. They want people like you, if that's you watching. But what they don't want is people with criminal records, or more specifically, people who have gone to the US and committed crimes in the US. And if you look at the data here, it does add up. What they're saying is that if you actually look at the number of people in the country who don't have the legal right to be there and who are working, it's actually, and they say it's stealing $150 million a year from Americans who would have those jobs otherwise. They also say that it's costing a fortune.
After seeing what you were capable of, I realized I shouldn't have crossed you. Now I'm willing to cooperate in any way possible.
Things because the government has to, or the local governments have to spend a lot of money dealing with a lot of issues. And as always, I don't just read the kind of media that I like reading, the conservative media, of course, but, oh no, getting people unsubscribing now. Oh, I'm a lefty. I only read the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. Can't believe this guy watches right-wing conservative stuff. So make sure to subscribe if you are not already. You've got to balance these out now. So I was reading the New York Times today. So I wanted to get a really good left-wing sort of viewpoint on all of this. And I was just absolutely amazed at what I was reading. And it's always the same. I just find it so fascinating that they always write these stories and they never provide any evidence, any statistics, any data, anything logical or rational. And they were talking about this whole deportation thing. And they said that, you know, people feel upset about this. There are people who feel upset about the deportations. Well, okay. I mean, people feel upset every day about all sorts of things. Some days I feel upset when I see an article like this from the New York Times. But so what? So what if people can't go to their local farmers market and get as much variety now in Los Angeles? I mean, small price to pay for lower crime is what I would say. Not that those people are well, I was about to say they're not criminals, but if you enter any country illegally, you are therefore by default a criminal as soon as you enter the country. But anyway, how they justify this, they say there's so many irregular migrants, in other words, illegal migrants, that are leaving the country, that it's going to create a vacuum. And there's just not going to be any workers to do anything. And the country's going to grind to a halt. Again, where's the data that supports that? Where is their evidence? It's just, you know, they just say this stuff without actually proving anything. But then I'm going to read this one out to you. You're going to love this. Miss Leet, 46, chose to use the government's new self-deportation program to return to Brazil. She's a housekeeper in North Carolina. Miss Leet said that she'd begun to panic when she saw immigrants being hunted down like hardened criminals. She said, I got really scared.
I know somebody peed in the pool. Get out of the pool, or you can get sick, or possibly a disease. Somebody knows somebody possibly a disease. You can get sick, or possibly a disease. I know somebody peed in the pool. Get out of the pool, or you can get sick, or possibly a disease.
To me. And it says then, unfortunately, here we go. Unfortunately, she had fallen out of legal status after accidentally overstaying a 6-month tourist visa back in 2018. Oh, oh yeah. I accidentally just overstayed my tourist visa slightly. Oh, how much am I? Oh, 7 years. Sorry? Yeah, just 7 years. Just accidentally overstayed by 7 years. Well, wait, I've got to continue this. I thought I hadn't done anything wrong, she said. And suddenly, I could be imprisoned. I mean, surely, I gotta say, I've really struggled to believe that people read this and say, that poor woman, that poor lady, she didn't even realise that it was a crime to overstay a visa and live here and work in the country for 7 years. She didn't even realise. And surely, dropping a comment, surely people don't believe this stuff. And look, I'm sure if I met this lady in real life, she would be a lovely lady. She's in the service industry, she's a housekeeper, she's doing a job that needs to be done. I'm sure that if I didn't know her legal status, I would think, what a lovely lady here. But it doesn't take away from the fact that there are legal ways to go to different countries. I think most of you know I live on the Isle of Man, which is where I'm recording this video here. And I had to follow a process to legally move here. And you can't just get up and move to another country. This is a separate country. You can't just move to another country and then say, oops, I didn't even realise. I thought I could just go anywhere in the world. Quick question for you. As much as we love the US dollar, I love the US dollar, I keep US dollars as well as British pounds and other currencies. Do you honestly believe that in 5, 10, 20 years' time, the savings that you get in your bank account are going to be worth exactly the same as they are now in terms of purchasing power? Do you believe that? And the answer is no, because that is what inflation is. It's designed to eat away at your savings. Combined with currency creation, money printing, you deserve that. Every time they create a new dollar, it weakens the dollars already in existence because all the currency is increasing, but the supply of goods and services isn't matching it. And we saw this in recent years with prices just going sky high, really sky high, and it was because of all that printing. And what many people don't know is that their savings in the bank actually lost value in terms of purchasing power. Lost value. Because that's what inflation does. It's designed to. Now, I'm just going to let you know, we have got a motorbike race on the island today. There's no way to escape the noise. So you're going to hear these motorbikes, like this one right here, going past. Okay. But the good news is, I would say, that you don't have to be a victim with all of this. There are ways that you can protect your money in the bank. Because for thousands of years, gold and silver and other tangible assets have protected people's money in the bank. I mean, it doesn't matter if it was against inflation, if it was against currency creation, incompetence, corruption. It's always been a good protection. And I think many of you know I've been invested in precious metals for over 20 years, more like 25 years. And I've taught, especially when I first started the channel, millions of people about precious metals and stocks and investing and everything else. In fact, I think I've got over 120 million views now just on the YouTube channel. It doesn't include all the other channels that I've got. So I've poured all of that knowledge into a single gold and silver investing course just for you. And it teaches you step by step. It's so simple. It takes you right from beginner level all the way up to advanced level. It teaches you what to buy, where to buy it, how to store it, how to protect your money, how to avoid all the scams. There's loads of scams out there. How to actually do really well from investing in gold and silver. And you don't even need thousands to actually do this. You only really need hundreds to get started. The key is just getting started. So imagine this then, the next financial crisis hits and everyone's running around and panicking, and things like you've seen in the past, like Northern Rock Bank, close the doors, you can't get your money out, and all these other banks have these problems. Everyone's panicking and you're not, because you know you've got gold and silver, which in crises tends to go up. So if you're interested in this, just check the link below in the description or the pinned comment, and I will be more than happy to help you on this journey. And there's also a 90% off coupon below for the course. Did you see what happened with Cracker Barrel yesterday? Ouch. Again, you go woke and you go broke. Why do these artists, as they like to call themselves, branding people, why do they, by the way, I do like branding people, I'm just joking here, but why do some of them have this weird complex where they feel like they have to change iconic brands into something new? I don't get it. Cracker Barrel was a great logo. I've eaten there so many times. I love Cracker Barrel. It's a good, honest, Christian company, restaurant, great home-cooked food, nice people, nice little gift shop. I bought a little gift from there last time I was there. Why do you need to have this new DEI policy? Why do you have to change the logo to remove this man, this countryman that's leaning on the barrel? Why do you have to remove that? Because some people, feel that it doesn't represent their culture. Like, to be honest, I'm not being funny here, but I don't really see much of that culture in there anyway, right? They're trying to attract all this new culture. Why? The queues are always out the door. You usually got to wait whenever you go to a Cracker Barrel if you want to eat, or at least the ones I've been to in the past anyway. Why do you need to bring in new customers and be more equitable and diverse and all this sort of stuff? Look, people have got their own restaurants. You've got certain people like Cracker Barrel, like me, my wife and her family, and then you've got other people who've got other restaurants, right? I won't start naming stuff. People start getting upset here. But look, you get what I'm saying. Why do you need to do this? You don't. And Trump had plenty to say about this. He ripped into the CEO. You get a name. Okay, Hertz, the CEO, Julie Fels-Massino. Trump said she scrapped a beloved American static and replaced it with sterile, soulless branding. And he also criticized what I've just said as well, the whole DEI approach. And did you see the stock? It dropped from about $58 all the way down to about $50 yesterday. I'm pretty sure, I haven't checked the charts, but it's probably recovered to 55 or something by now. But I very much doubt it's all the way back up to 58 today. See, that's what happens. They should have learned from the Jaguar campaign. Remember with Jaguar, with that weird brand guy who came in with all of his DEI stuff and all of his weird woke stuff, and he unleashed this new, revealed this new Jaguar, and everyone's going, oh, what is that monstrosity? And then you saw the advert with the people on it. That's who it was for, apparently. Does that make any sense at all? No. You've got all these people, men like me, for example, who have got the money to buy the cars, and then, well, actually, I was going to buy a new Jaguar, funny enough, and I went for a Mercedes instead, but I was going to buy a Jaguar. So there you go, they lost definitely one customer, but I think they lost a lot more than just me. The sales are not looking good for this new car. Well, we've still got loads more stories today. This is a very heavy US-based video, so I feel like I've been neglecting my US audience a little bit recently. And it's just because there's been so much going on in the UK. It's chaos in the UK. I'll be going over, I think it's probably in a few weeks' time, and I'll be over in the UK for about 2 or 3 weeks in a big city tour. This is going to be crazy, going around the different UK cities since last year to do an update. And then I'm going to do the European capitals again. So stay tuned, because these are always big hitting videos. Now let's go on to the Politico hit piece on the US, on President Trump, and on the US people. It was really a disgraceful piece that they put out today. So they led with this headline and sub-headline then. US popularity collapses worldwide in wake of Trump's return. The world is more divided than ever, but there's still something nearly everyone agrees on. The US is unloved. And then they go into this massive hit piece. You can see, here we go. They state that data proves that people don't like the US or US citizens anymore. They've got this graph. Let me throw this graph on the screen here. And it shows here China, 14%. Everyone loves China, apparently. The US is negative 5%. People just don't like the US or US citizens. And Russia is down negative 9%. So they honestly expect me to believe that the world dislikes the US almost as much as Russia. I just don't believe it. I really don't believe it until I saw where they had got this data from, and then I just laughed, because it's all the countries that are having issues with the US. All the African countries, the Latin American countries as well. These are the ones that they surveyed. Politico is so corrupt in what they do. So I'm glad I don't have a subscription to them. The next story I thought was really fascinating was actually not a conservative piece. It was actually on the Democrats here, so it's more left-leaning. This really surprised me. So they were talking about this crisis that they've currently got.
It should work. It's only like 24/7. Once I make this one shiny, I just want to max up the talent. I know I should. So our doctor's appointment, Mike here. You guys are watching the video because they heard there's 12 new fighters. Brief in an anatomy instructor, a girl. No, I'll be low. You see, I've said it so many times, but you gotta do it now because put it over you guys' mouth. But now, you have to stand there. See. Crazy. Can I fuse everything to her? Okay. So now we're on an even playing field. These are the two units I wanted to compare, guys. But she got like this little thing going on. I think it looks pretty cool. Let's take that scissor roll. Let's see where the talent is at. So you guys see it's at 7 base damage. It's decent. I'm just gonna max out the base damage. It's only 6 typical through. And then let's see her damage out. I guess it's like 50 to 60 Q. Okay, 53 Q. So now this is stronger than your. And this is, I didn't even level it. It's 2 levels. I mean, I leveled like 1 or 2 levels, but like, damn, I just maxed out the talent of the Shiner. 53 Q. That is insane. I haven't even re-rolled capacity yet. We don't even have the newest secret in the newest map yet. And it's already doing that much damage. Massive fashion Empire is a really good. There is an Empire ring right now. Yo, let see if we can do this raid, y'all. Let's see if there's oh, okay. It said teleport fail. I guess the raid is not. Oh no, there is a raid. Apparently there's a raid now. Let's see if I can get inside the raid, guys. And if we can do it.
I wanted to make this video because I came across a stat recently that just blew my mind, and maybe you've seen it too. It's about 30-year-olds in America. Now, back in the 60s, if you were 30 years old, there was about a 50% chance that you were both married and owned a home. That was just normal life back then. But today, in 2025, that number has fallen to around 10%. Think about how crazy that is. Almost 90% of people in their late 20s and early 30s are missing the two very things that society used to tell us were the markers of adulthood, essentially: marriage and homeownership. And of course, after that naturally comes family. And this is of course more than just a number. There's a whole story behind how things got this way, and why so many of us at this age wake up with this constant knot in our stomach, feeling like there's really not that much to live for. It seems like everyone feels like they're falling behind, and the worst part is that it seems like every time we want to have a real conversation about these issues, the response is always the same. It's your fault. Stop being lazy. Take some responsibility. There are always people out there trying to gaslight us into thinking that we're always the problem. But if everyone is feeling the same way, it's not just like an entire generation decided to get lazy overnight. Human psychology doesn't just change on a whim. So I think that means you're not crazy if you're struggling. If you're in your 20s and still feeling behind like I do, like so many other people do out there, it's not necessarily because you're a failure. It's because the world that we were promised really doesn't exist anymore. Now, most of us grew up with a specific script we were conditioned to believe in. You go to school, you get a decent job, you get married, you buy a house, you start a family, maybe have a kid or two by the time you're 30. It's very simple. That was supposed to be the timeline, and that's how it was several decades ago. For our parents and grandparents, a lot of them thankfully did hit that milestone. They can maybe graduate at 22, buy a starter home by 25, have their first kid at 28, and that's not to say everything was easy for them, but it was doable. Now fast forward to our generation. You hit 25 and maybe you're working an entry-level job that barely pays enough to cover rent. Maybe you've got tens or hundreds of $1,000s of student loans on your back. And when you look at houses, forget about it. The cheapest two-bedroom in a big city might cost $500,000. Again, it's no wonder why people feel behind in this generation. And of course, it's important to be appreciative of a lot of the privileges we do have, like not having to fight in a war, for example. But that's also not to minimize the problems that we do deal with. Again, it's not necessarily that you failed, it's that the rules of engagement have changed. So I just want to spend some time talking about the two simple issues of marriage and homeownership, and what about them has changed in our modern world. Let's start with marriage. Why are fewer people married at 30 than ever before now? Well, first and most obviously, there's the growing cultural divide between men and women. For whatever reason, a lot of women have simply been told that they don't need men anymore, that men are optional at best or harmful at worst. And naturally, you've got men reacting to that by checking out, getting angry, or retreating into online spaces where even more resentment builds. The result of this is the whole manosphere and red pill stuff. Because for years, people blamed men for toxic masculinity. Then, as a backlash reacting to that sort of culture, entire online communities popped up that not diagnose some of the issues correctly, but they end up pushing toxic solutions that make everything worse. It's ironic that what started as blaming men for being toxic ended up actually creating more toxicity in response. And there's the dating apps. On paper, these apps were obviously meant to make it easier to meet people and build connections, but in reality, they turned dating into window shopping. Swipe left, swipe right, 6'5", blue eyes. It's all completely surface level. There's no community, no organic connection, no caring about the other person's actual values, really. It's just all superficial and materialistic. And for men, everyone knows that the apps skew heavily against us. The top 10% of guys, some people say it's 5% nowadays, get a monopoly of the attention from women, and the rest simply get almost nothing. And even for women, although it creates this weird abundance of options, it typically doesn't lead to long-term satisfaction. And on top of all this, there's a lot of fear and paranoia going around. Nowadays, thanks to social media, you see a lot of these horror stories of people, especially men, but also women from time to time, who have gotten their hearts broken and even lost everything they have in a divorce. And obviously those stories are more so of an exception than the rule, but they at least seem more common than ever before, and spread through word of mouth quicker than ever before. So once you've read enough of them, you start to think, why would I even sign up for that risk in the first place? And just in social media in general, people like to showcase their breakups, their drama, their bitterness, and it just creates an atmosphere where relationships don't feel safe. Getting married sometimes seems like you're just signing your life and your savings away. And finally, the other issue we can't ignore is money. Because even if you do find that right person and want to get married, how can you build a stable relationship when both people are working 24/7, stressed, broke, unsure about the future? You can't afford a wedding, can't afford kids, can barely afford an apartment together. Even when love is real, money and stress can destroy it fast. So overall, I don't think it's that people don't want marriage anymore. It's that the entire foundation for what leads up to it is being crumbled from the bottom up. The other half of this equation is homeownership. This one is brutal, because back in the 1960s and 70s, the average house would cost maybe 3 times the average annual salary. But today, especially in the big cities, wages have barely moved in decades adjusted for inflation, but housing prices have gone absolutely through the roof. What makes it even more unaffordable is debt, because millions of young people who are just starting out adulthood are already in the red because of student loans they can't pay off. And of course, if you decide to take a student loan, to some extent it is your responsibility. But the prospect of a lucrative job after college, which is the reason why we go to college, that promise is something that was oversold and under-delivered. With all the difficulties in the job market nowadays, especially with outsourcing and AI. But anyways, the point is that if you're paying hundreds of dollars a month just in loans, on top of other payments like rent, car bills, electric, utilities, food, subscription services, whatever you can name really, just the cost of daily living on your own after college. With all of that, how are you supposed to save for a down payment? And if that wasn't enough, look at interest rates. Just a couple years ago, you could get a mortgage for under 3%. Nowadays, it's more like 7%. That means the exact same house might cost double in monthly payments. Not because the house changed, but because the system changed. And the shady part in all this is that Wall Street has now become a direct competitor. Honestly, more so like an oppressor than a competitor. Because big firms like BlackRock, Blackstone, and hedge funds are buying up houses by the thousands. Not just luxury properties either, starter homes too, or even the land that could have been used to build housing developments. And what they do simply is rent them out for profit so that people who live in them can't just make a one-time purchase and spend the rest of their lives there. Anyone who lives there has to keep giving these companies money every month for the rest of their lives. So basically, when you're out there trying to scrape enough money over the years to be able to buy a house someday, you're literally bidding against billion-dollar corporations. And another issue that I don't think people bring up too much is location itself. Because where are most of the jobs that pay well? In big cities. And where is housing the most expensive at the same time? In these same big cities. So it's basically like you either live where the work is and pay the same rent, or move somewhere affordable, but the job opportunities don't pay well. It seems like either way the system boxes you in. So long story short, when people say young people don't want to buy homes anymore, that's obviously nonsense. We do want homes, it's just that I can't get them. And where it all connects is that, of course, the issues of marriage and home ownership feed into each other. People tend to delay marriage when they don't feel financially ready. But at the same time, without a marriage or a stable partnership, it's harder to combine incomes and save up to buy a house. Without a house, people feel like they're not ready to raise kids. And without the prospect of potentially having kids, the motivation for marriage itself gets pushed back even further. As you can see, it's this vicious cycle. One missing piece makes the others harder, and before you know it, you're in your late 20s, early 30s, feeling like you've fallen off the track, even though the track itself doesn't really exist anymore. It's not just bad luck, it's not that life is just supposed to be like this, it's that we as a generation were betrayed. Not by regular people in the older generation, by the way, because I see a lot of people that like to blame the boomers or whatever. It's not just the ordinary people, because a lot of them are struggling too and understand what we're dealing with. The betrayal came from the people at the very top. Politicians, the bankers, the tech billionaires, the ones who rewrote the rules of the game for their own benefit while telling us to just work harder. They're the ones who inflated housing costs while cutting wages. They're the ones who turned college into a debt trap. They're the ones who outsource jobs, lobby for policies that benefit corporations at our expense, and then go on TV to lecture us about personal fiscal responsibility. Meanwhile, they sit in mansions, buy up starter homes through shell companies, and then tell us we're lazy for not owning one ourselves. So no, it's not necessarily that everyone who's struggling in this generation is lazy, entitled, or bad with money. The truth is that the ladder was pulled up by people who never planned on letting us climb it in the first place. And that betrayal is why so many young men feel disaffected, hopeless, anxious, even nihilistic. Because deep down, we knew that the dream wasn't lost, it was stolen. And of course, I do want to remind people that there is a lot to be grateful for. For example, our generation doesn't have to deal with world wars and that kind of stuff, and we have a lot of modern technologies and conveniences that we should be grateful for. So in that sense, things are truly easier than ever. But of course, that doesn't discredit the actual issues that we do have that I'm trying to point out in this video and in a lot of my other videos. So I hope that makes sense as well. Anyways, what's the answer to all of this?
Every once in a while, I'll stumble on a news article so brain-meltingly, stone-crushingly stupid that the only socially acceptable response is... Such was the case yesterday with this absolute corker from Variety, that always reliable bastion of respectable, impartial journalism. Disney's Boy Trouble. Studio seeks original IP to win back Gen Z men amid Marvel Lucasfilm struggles.
You had my curiosity.
Original IP to win back Gen Z men. Leadership at Walt Disney Studios has been pressing Hollywood creatives in recent months, multiple sources tell Variety, for movies that will bring young men back to the brand in a meaningful way. Are you serious? Oh, really? Tell me, why would you have to do something like that? I mean, you've spent years telling us that men are irrelevant now, that nobody needs or wants those mean, stinky boys polluting culture with their toxic masculinity, that male and pale is stale, that the future is female. Why do you care about attracting men to your brand all of a sudden? And therein lies the rub, dear viewer. You might utterly despise men and everything they represent, but when it comes to that increasingly uncomfortable meeting with the accountants every few months, well, it turns out that you kind of need them, especially young men who seem to be quite a powerful demographic these days. Let's see what else this stunning and brave article has to say, shall we? Numerous studies show that Gen Z men in particular are a lonely, gaming-obsessed group who are hampered in their formative years by COVID-19 lockdowns. Okay, I'm going to stop you right there before this journalistic retardation goes any further. Let's be clear about one thing. Young men were not hampered in their formative years by the lockdowns, or the patriarchy, or global warming, or social injustice, or any of the other bullshit excuses you're going to try to throw in to obfuscate the truth. They were hampered by an entertainment media complex that spent most of the past decade systematically trying to obliterate them from modern culture. They've been berated, insulted, deconstructed, mocked, lectured, misrepresented, gaslit into believing their every natural instinct was wrong and evil, and simultaneously labelled as useless and irrelevant, but also somehow the cause of every negative thing that ever happens in the world, depending on which explanation is most expedient.
I'm so fucking tired. I thought I just needed a night's sleep, but it's more than that.
And every single time they've dared to defend themselves or push back in this completely one-sided war, they've been dismissed as sexist, misogynistic idiots and bullied or attacked into silence. Is it really that much of a surprise that after all of this, after realizing the deck is so hopelessly stacked against them, that not only can they never be allowed to win, but they'll be actively punished for even trying in the first place, they finally decided, fuck it, I'm just not playing anymore. And they hit back with the most powerful weapon left in their arsenal, their wallets. If companies like Disney decide to use their platform to beat young men over the head with the message that everything male is inherently bad, then I guess young men just won't watch their stuff anymore. It's not exactly rocket science, but holy fuck. This article and others like it will explore every possible explanation except the simplest and most obvious one. And I think we know why. It actually kind of reminds me of all those articles cropping up on feminist websites these days decrying the lack of male attention after those very same sites spent years complaining about men being too forward, too assertive, too interested, too creepy, and gosh darn it, why can't they just leave us all alone? Gee, I wonder why they're not interested in dating anymore. It's a total mystery to me too, ladies. The irony is that Disney already had access to some of the biggest and most successful male-focused brands in history. And yes, both Star Wars and Marvel were decidedly male brands. That doesn't mean the ladies couldn't enjoy them too, and many did in fact. But if I had to choose a gender most likely to gravitate towards a franchise about space battles, adventure, ships and technology, heroism and epic struggles for the fate of the universe, yeah, it's gonna be men. And that right there is perfectly okay. Men are allowed to have stuff that they like, and a lot of the time,
That stuff is going to be quite different from what women like. The problem is that only one side is ever expected to compromise and make concessions to accommodate the other, and I'll give you a little hint here. It's not women. Like, could you imagine for 1 second if they did a reboot of Sex and the City? Sorry, wait, another reboot. Only this time half the female characters were gender swapped, the glamour and sophistication of the New York social scene was replaced with muscle cars and guns and girls in bikinis, and every episode had to include some tedious subtext about how difficult modern life is for men to navigate. I don't think it would go down very well. But there seems to be this weird cultural taboo around the idea of male-focused anything now, like catering specifically to men as a demographic is some moral crime that has to be addressed and corrected, instead of a smart and logical business decision from a company that should be all about giving the customer what they want. In the case of those male-oriented franchises that used to be a license to print money because they used to understand their customers, the problem wasn't just the clunky attempts to court a female audience with a sudden influx of pandering, poorly written girl bosses who could magically do anything and were always right about everything. Even women hated that shit because they were more than smart enough to see right through it. No, the bigger problem was the active sabotage, marginalization, destruction, and outright crucifixion of the male characters to make way for them. I've been over this kind of thing a million times before, so I'm not going to bore you with all the examples like Han, Luke, Indiana Jones, Thor, Kylo Ren, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Nick Fury, and about 100 others I could name. The list of cultural assassinations is frankly mind-boggling at this point. The point, though, is that instead of becoming more accessible to women, these franchises instead became increasingly hostile towards men, especially young and impressionable men who could really use some positive role models to aspire to. Instead, they found themselves getting lectured, berated, and disrespected by a studio that seemed to actively hate them. And that's the funny thing about young men, you see. They can, and often do, put up with a lot of shit in their daily lives, but the one thing they won't put up with is disrespect, especially from a fucking company that wants them to part with their hard-earned money for their privilege. Add all these factors together, and you get a conclusion so simple and obvious that I can't believe I'm even having to say it, but here we are. When you decide to treat half your audience as the enemy, that's exactly what you turn them into. You really do get what you fucking deserve, and in this case, Disney deserves to lose half their audience because they gave them absolutely no reason to stick around. But you know what? Rather than signing off with some smarmy little fuck you, I want to pull something positive out of this situation, because it seems like even Disney are beginning to acknowledge how badly they've done wrong. Yeah, the admission's only been forced grudgingly out of them by sheer financial necessity, but it's something at least. And never let it be said that the drinker doesn't offer a helping hand to those in need. So if I could offer a few pieces of advice, speaking as someone of the male persuasion here, I'd say they have to come to terms with a few realities about their situation. The first reality is that not everything you make can appeal to everyone, and nor should you try. Movies like Barbie and Top Gun Maverick are proof that when you target a specific audience and give them exactly what they want without trying to dilute it down in the hopes of appealing to an even bigger market, you can and will make an absolute fortune. The second reality is that any project revolving around adventure, science fiction, action, or technology, like say, I don't know, Star Wars and Marvel, is probably going to skew male. I don't know what to tell you, man, but men and women tend to be interested in different things, and no amount of social conditioning or deconstruction is ever going to change that. And if they're your two biggest franchises that you probably want to resurrect and get profitable again, then you're going to have to accept that your primary demographic is men, and cater the content accordingly. The third reality is that you need to bring back masculine heroes if you want to get a male audience back. And I'm not talking about the state feminized, corporate-approved Pedro Pascal brand of masculinity that's basically just a woman with a moustache, but the actual male archetype of masculinity that's been practically outlawed in modern media. Men who are smart, capable, assertive, confident, complex, and maybe even a bit dangerous, who don't resort to verbal diarrhea or fold like a house of cards the moment a woman challenges them on something. Those are the kinds of characters that men have drawn for decades, and guess what? They still are. And no the fourth and final reality is that everyone, men and women, and well-written female
characters that push and rival their male counterparts. In fact, you absolutely should. But the days of one-sided contests where women always have to win to put men in their place, or invincible power fantasies that are either the writer's revenge fanfiction or walking inferiority complexes are well and truly over. Women don't relate to them, and men, particularly young men that have been force-fed a diet of this crap for most of their lives, are actively repulsed by anything that has them in it. Now, all of this stuff probably seems completely obvious, common sense to you, but fuck me, it feels like common sense is in short supply in Hollywood these days.
In fact, 9 times out of 10, it probably means you're wrong. And in the wrong. Just so you know. I thought that these things were common sense. That's what I thought, but then you realize that's what you're dealing with. This is what it is, boss. Where's the jump? Like I said, how's everybody doing? Another day of the penguin ducking me. Baby. Just another beautiful day.
Blazy was still crusty at you.
Brown town.
Just kidding.
Brown town. Brown town. Brown town. I'm telling you, these folks do not know how to drive. They don't know how to walk. They need walking lessons. Majority of them, straight up. But yeah, they just all think that the world revolves around them for some odd reason. It definitely doesn't. At all. Just like apparently they don't know where they at, or what country they're in. Like, you're in America. Like, yeah. Yep. Americans look like me. They're just like me. You're in our country. So, do what you told. So, like I said, man, we do what we want over here on this side. Right? We have fun. Every day is a Batman party.
He's talking about Red Line Hotel, I think.
And that's what folks need to be reminded of. Need to be reminded who's the real power and authority. They just gave you divine confirmation that I'm the strongest being on the planet. I've been telling you all this. And they're going to keep telling you for me. I don't have to say nothing. All the downloads speak for themselves. Hold on. I had some delicious Taco Bell right now. And now I'm out and on about my merry way. Be Batman and save Gotham, save the day. Because I'd be saving Gotham every day for. That's right. So yeah, like I said, I mean, you know, we just have fun every day, man, and we do us, and we stand up for what's right at the same time. Have a very serious message, and stand for serious. This is what it is. You know what I mean? Some people are a little too serious. How you doing? It'd be nice if everybody, you know, I mean, he wants to go into that gym and waste his money. That's his deal. That's like walking into the rip-off forest. I mean, the Rainforest Cafe. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous. I mean, if you're looking for that, that's the right place to go. You know, me and Christina will go there, though. We're going to have some money. We'll make sure they serve us right on time and do everything right by us. I think he's ended it. No games. These are games.
You got 2 minutes left.
Not at all. Not at all. So, yeah. We're going to keep on doing what we do. Just that simple. Right? Like I said, we out here getting this money. La 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 la. Don't want to hear. We out here getting this money. Getting this money. Moolah money. Getting paid right now. Every second on here. Getting his age on both. Like I said, I think we overruffed over $60 bucks. Right? I told he's going to accrue more today. gonna try to get me some videos on my little walk here. Right? So hopefully try to kill us at some point. Get the hell on out of here. And that's it for the day. Alright?
What's up, Daisy?
I don't think I'll have time today anyway, but I don't know. My hand looks like it's healing. Honey, if you're listening. But maybe like one day off, the day off of the training, since I did yesterday a little, might be good. I don't really think I'm going to have time anyway. It's already pretty late in the day. But I guess gotta keep pushing. I'm going to have to get some videos on my way walking up. So we'll try to do that. I don't know if I'll get off of here to do that in a second and maybe try to listen to my own stuff while I walk around and do what I do. I will figure it out. And these folks really be thinking that like they sound hilarious. Golly, bro. This is funny. Alright. Matter of fact, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get some videos real quick. We'll probably do another live in just a moment here, alright? So I'll be right back. Much love to everybody. Much love, world. Peace, world. Keep cheering for me. I don't want your validation, I want your money. Send me some money. Alright? Cash at me, I'll talk to you in a minute.
He'll probably be back here in a minute. In the meantime, he launched a short earlier today. I'm going to play that here real quick. This is from earlier today. Where the hell is he? Did he try and get into a shelter earlier today? Don't know. He didn't say anything. He didn't put nothing on it. Guess I don't know. It could be an awning at a park. Kind of reminds me of that shipping container where they had the workout gym at the Red Wagon Ministry. I have no idea. It'll probably be back up here in a minute. Since everyone's talking about restaurants, Red Lobster, whatever, the Rainforest Cafe, there's a man named Ronald McDonald that apparently the Joey owns. Is the CEO of McDonald's. And we're a little song here early. You know, Joey's always wanting to go beyond the ice wall. It's a telltale love story. Just take a listen. It's called Beyond the Ice Wall. We'll see if he fires another one up here.
The ice and the snow, a secret they breathe. The creatures of old, with eyes of blood, worship Joey and Ronald. As you don't you know, we are
Wasn't expecting that term to be. That was fun to put
Hello,
together.
I'm a wobbly wobbler. Just a
I
kid
gotta
who moves
check out
pink
it.
and
Anyway,
wearing games you are.
it's
How
not
about
fired
you,
up
Kim
yet.
Lazy?
Just know when I end this, he's going to fire another one up, and it wouldn't be the first time. So, what do I do here? What do I do? It's all the shorts, not bumping any shorts out. So, we'll just fucking come back at it again. All right, fuck it. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming in, Marie. Welcome in. Everyone in chat. See you later.
Oi, I
Go and get
didn't mean to bother you. I'll just go with my misfit then. Bye-bye, King Lazy.
I drink a lot of fucking beer, that's for sure. Many times to an excess that I'm not too proud of the fucked up shitty situations that I've managed to fist fuck my way into. I learned a lot along the way, though. I'll share that knowledge with you if it can prevent a fucking drunken grease fire. If it doesn't, you are the fucking grease fire. Right. That's right. How long are you doing? I hope that you're doing well out there. It is what it is. Go on it. Alright. There's something I'm looking for today because I just got a download and I saw a picture of it. I think that would mean I'm supposed to look into it. I didn't get to listen to the message, but I'll hear it more a little later. Right now I'm busy. Got a late start today a little bit. Trying to rest a little bit. Didn't rest much, but I'm pretty sure I slept some. Still exhausted. This job takes it out of you too. It's a lot. It'd be a lot for anybody. It's a lot for me, but very good at what I do. Red light, green light. Batman's turn. But yeah, like I said, we out here. We outside. Not like French toast once a year. We're outside all the time. Pretty much every day. We're outside. Right. Greetings, brown billions. How are all of you doing today? For I am the man who protects you while you sleep. That's right. I am the glorious Batman. Hello, commoners. Way down there. How are you? Like this tire here. Right there. For absolutely no reason. Hello, commoners. Peasants alike. How are you? Today I have decided to grace you with my royal presence for a moment. I want to go over here. Yes, what it is. Go ahead. All right, hurry up. Da, da, da. Puppy power. I bet that's way. This way it looks better. Looks more appeasing, more enticing. Red lobster. Red lobster. Y'all ever heard of Red Lion? That's where my dad used to take me when I was a kid. The Red Lobster was my favorite. Red Lobster was like my reward for anything I did good, like in sports and stuff. Like when my team would win the game and all that. And then I liked Red Lion too, and I would request to go to these places. Red Lion, I think, was like a hotel in Austin. Whatever happened to Red Lion? I might have to try to bring that back on my own. I don't think I can call it exactly that, though. I don't know what you're doing, but, like, it'd be nice if you make up your mind, yes. Seriously. Yeah. I tell you, I don't care where I'm at. We don't do this. You just, get in front of me and stand there still. And, nope, this is America. So, yeah, like I said, I'll walk where I want. I'll talk how I want. I'll do what I want. Every day I'm exercising my freedom. To not have your freedom or your civil rights, civil liberties in this country, I mean, it means nothing then. That's the whole thing these folks know.
What's up, guys? It's Graham here, and I hope you're prepared for what just happened. As of a few hours ago, the Federal Reserve completely flipped their entire outlook on the economy, inflation, and most importantly, your money, to the point where pretty soon we could see, dare I say it, rate cuts coming a lot sooner than expected. After all, there's now the concern that the jobs market could be in more trouble than we thought. They might have just admitted that above 2% inflation could never go away, and instead of doubling down, the money printer is preparing to turn back on. And we all know what that means. That's why we have to talk about what Jerome Powell just said, the shocking new information he just revealed, and the impact this is about to have on your entire portfolio. Because even though the market is turning wildly profitable, there are some issues to watch out for. You're not nervous. But before we start, if you appreciate the last-minute breaking news videos like this, where I drop everything to get this out as soon as possible, it would mean the world to me if you hit the like button or subscribe if you haven't done already. It means more of a difference than you could imagine. And as a thanks for doing that, here's a picture of a swarm. Thanks so much, and also big thank you to the community for sponsoring this video, but more on that later. Alright, so in terms of what's going on, why the Federal Reserve was just throwing a massive economic curveball that frankly changes everything, let's talk about declining jobs. In this case, here's the thing. Even though most people think the Federal Reserve's only job is to protect your portfolio from falling more than 20%, in reality, they're what's known as a central bank, whose entire goal is to oversee our economy, regulate financial institutions, and to control the amount of money that goes into and out of our system. Their priority over everything else is to make sure that the United States has a strong labor market, we maintain maximum levels of employment, and in doing so, they can regulate financial markets in such a way that moves us away from record high inflation. Except for that jobs part, because everything there is going to well, 2 weeks ago, we got a complete shock to the entire market. Instead of adding 300,000 jobs like we expected, it turns out that was a complete mistake, and instead, we gained just 73,000 jobs. Yeah, seriously. In reality, these combined job growth numbers that we see are based on surveys and limited data from large firms. Then as they collect more information, these numbers are revised to reflect a more accurate data points. Except this time, they were off by a lot. But part of this, they say, is due to the fact that response rates have dropped significantly over the last decade, accelerating after the pandemic, and therefore it raises concerns about reliability. So even though Trump has previously said that this data is all rigged, the truth is revisions like this happen all the time.
practically every single month, although revisions of this magnitude reflect a very quickly changing economy that's not fully able to account for tariffs, low and late survey responses, and seasonal adjustments that made this an unexpected shock to the entire market, throwing everyone off guard. However, the good news, weirdly enough when it comes to this, is that the weaker the jobs market is, the more likely we are to see future rate cuts, which is really good for stocks and is probably going to make you a lot of money. And in terms of what Jerome Powell just said, oh, you better get ready for this. First of all, it's important to mention that usually the Federal Reserve doesn't just act out unpredictably. It's not in their best interest to shock the markets or make moves that people can't reasonably adjust to. Because of that, they'll typically signal their intentions ahead of time to give people enough room to plan. And this time, their signal is very clear. They're expecting rate cuts. And even though our economy is overall healthy, with a relatively low unemployment rate, all things considered, Jerome Powell admitted that the downside risks are rising. And as a result, he said the conditions allow us to proceed carefully as we consider changes to our policy stance. In other words, he's alluding to the fact that they might have to pivot from, we're not lowering interest rates until tariff uncertainty is resolved, to today, where the economy might require them to lower rates a lot sooner than they expected. This is completely different from what they said a few weeks ago prior to the jobs numbers, where they strongly resisted rate cuts, despite Trump's demand to lower them as aggressively as possible. However, in terms of Trump and whether or not the president has any impact whatsoever on their upcoming decision, Jerome Powell reassures everyone that the Federal Reserve is completely independent of any government agency, and that all of your decisions are based solely on the assessment of the data and its implications for the economic outlook and the balance of risks. Of course, in terms of these choices, keep in mind that Jerome Powell is not the only decision maker, and it's not like he could just wake up one morning and say, you know what, guys, I actually feel like a 50 basis point rate cut today. That sounds pretty nice. Instead, it's voted on between 7 Federal Reserve board members and 5 regional board members. That way, one person doesn't have complete control of everything. Although, speaking of one person, there is a Fed board member who could potentially be on the chopping block to get replaced by somebody that Trump appoints, and that would be Lisa Cook. Here's a high-level overview of what's going on. We all know that Trump wants as many rate cuts as soon as possible as he could get, but he can't do that without really overstepping his boundaries. However, by law, a president does have the right to remove Federal Reserve board members for cause, which is generally interpreted as an inefficiency, neglect of duty, or malfeasance, which in this case appears to target Lisa Cook. Why? Well, it's alleged that in 2021, she named 2 different properties as her primary residence and loan applications. Of course, Lisa responded saying that I do intend to take any questions about my financial history seriously as a member of the Federal Reserve, and so I'm gathering the accurate information to answer any legitimate questions on my defense. Essentially, one side says that Trump is trying to intimidate the Federal Reserve by finding any dirt he can, and then trying to get them removed so that he can appoint his own people. While the other side says that these are all legitimate concerns, and regardless of everything else, we should lower interest rates for the sake of our economy. But in terms of the largest change in Jerome Powell, the shocking new shift that is going to impact pretty much everything, here's what he's doing. But before we go to that, it does surprise we spent a lot of time analyzing the economy, Federal Reserve, and a number of impacts on all of our financial futures. But the reality is, the best fight you can do is cutting out wasted time and eating unhealthy throughout your day. Where starting to realize that your health needs to take priority. Like usually for days like today, I'm working non-stop and doing everything I can to get this video out on time, and skipping meals or doing whatever it takes just to focus. That's why I've started getting fresh, pre-packaged meals delivered on a regular basis. And it's been incredible. I feel better, I work better, and if you want a major food life hack, they could actually wind up saving you a lot of money. It's all thanks to our sponsor, Community. For those unaware, Community is the first chef consumer platform delivering freshly prepared meals right to your door weekly. It's literally as close as you can get to having a private chef without actually paying for a private chef. Plus, when I actually broke down the cost of each meal, it was cheaper than what I was buying at Chipotle, which is insane. Not to mention, picking out your meals is super easy and effortless. Just choose a subscription plan and select from hundreds of meals each week prepared by award-winning chefs. All the meals are delivered fully cooked, so all you have to do is heat them up. And lunch or dinner is done in as little as 15 minutes with no planning or cleanup required. Even better, the subscription is super flexible, with options of 4 to 16 meals a week. Delivered free, skip costs, and cancel at any time that you want. Once recommendations, and personally, Fox, the roast salmon and lobster sauce by Chef Andre Mendez, mustard clustered salmon by Lulu LaFave, and crispy tilapia and Greek salad by Chef Lucas Garcia. If you want to try it out, give it a shot. Go to community.com/brand and use the code BRAND50 at checkout to get 50% off with good fortune. At that price, it's too good of a deal not to take advantage of. So go ahead and do it. Let me know what you think. Thanks so much. Now it's back. Alright, man, since your girl Carol just said, we need to talk about the most shocking revolution in policy. If that would be what college, let's still have this inflation target. Look, no surprise, the Federal Reserve's entire goal is just to get inflation to return back to its 2% target without completely destroying the U.S. economy in the process. It's in terms of why they want 2%.
Argument today is that Canadians should accept basically the best of the bad deal. What's been the change?
Wait. I reject the premise of that question.
We got some rumblings of something happening here today. Welcome back to Moose and Loose. My name's David. Today we've got Mark Carney going full elbows up and removing retaliatory tariffs because Donald Trump told him to do so. Mark Carney can see that the economy is tanking, jobs numbers are tanking, people are fleeing, capital is fleeing, Canada is going down the drain, and he knows that his chance at getting re-elected as Prime Minister for a majority term is quickly slipping between his fingers. He's trying to salvage that. Let's jump into this. Today, Mark Carney announcing he's dropping retaliatory tariffs on CUSMA products. And take a listen to this, the way he frames this as if Canada has the best agreement and he's Prime Minister, associating the CUSMA agreement with him being in charge. The way he's wording this, he wants to make Canadians feel like he was somehow involved in this. Clearly he had nothing to do with it.
So as we work to address outstanding trade issues with the United States, it's important, it's vital. We do everything we can to preserve this unique advantage for Canadian workers, Canadian businesses.
This guy campaigned on elbows up, let's break away from America, the relationship is over, and now it's a unique situation, a unique agreement, beneficial one to Canadians. This guy's such a fraud.
And doing so will require both building on a soon-to-be revised CUSMA, our free trade agreement with the U.S. and Mexico, as well as developing a new form of trade and security partnership with the United States. In this context, and consistent with Canada's commitment, because I'm announcing today that the Canadian government will now match the United States by removing all of Canada's tariffs on U.S. goods specifically covered under CUSMA.
Essentially, he had a call with Donald Trump yesterday, and Trump said, this is what you're going to do, or we're not talking again for another month. Carney quickly said, okay, Mr. Trump, I'll do whatever you want. But look at this. Trump is getting concession after concession from Carney and giving nothing in return.
This decision will take effect, September 1st of this year. The situation we're in now is that Canada and the United States have reestablished free trade for the vast majority of our goods. Canada will retain our tariffs on steel, aluminum, and autos as we work intensively with the United States to resolve the issues there. Indeed, our focus is squarely on these strategic sectors and the future. The Canadian government will begin our preparations for the CUSMA review process that is due next year by launching new consultations starting next month to assess Canadian priorities in the new global trade environment. And in addition, following my conversation with the President of the United States yesterday, Canada and the United States will intensify our discussions to address current trade challenges in those strategic sectors and to seize major immediate opportunities for us both in trade, investment, and security.
This guy just announced that he's going to have more talks with Donald Trump. Whoop-de-doo. So with all this going on, what does Donald Trump have to say about this situation?
Actually, Canada is taking away some retaliatory tariffs.
He's removing his tariffs.
Exactly.
He's removing his retaliatory tariffs, which I thought was nice. And we're going to have another call soon. Yeah, we had a very good call.
We're getting closer towards
the I like him. I like him. You know, look.
So something interesting about Trump's body language, let's look at that there. So when he's asked that question, are you guys getting closer? Trump's eyes flick right to the left, his left or right. That kind of response isn't a yes or a no, but it is, there's something in the works there. Because he's thinking about something specific that Carney and Trump talked about.
You know, we're getting closer towards
I like him. I like him. You know, look.
You can see his eyes flicked like that twice. So there's something going on here. There's something in the motion. Trump is pushing him on something, and Carney's starting to concede. And it's not just the retaliatory tariffs. There's something else going on here. wants to build through Canada or some sort of joint thing where he's going to twist Carney's arm. When is an announcement coming? I don't know. We'll see here. Probably in the next month. If you're Canadian, you should want no reciprocal tariffs. Tariffs are a tax. Tariffs raise the cost of businesses and consumers alike. It's a tariff war. The best option is to not play. This is a great comment. I mean, I mentioned this so many times before. I was looking at the pretty pricey backpack, $250, $300 for backpacking. But coming from America with the exchange rate, then duties, and then the tariffs was the big one, that became like an $800 to $900 backpack, which is insane. So getting rid of the tariffs will eliminate probably $300 of that cost. Still too expensive, but much cheaper. There's a bunch of people calling for the Joffrey Eggstein files to be released. He's not getting away from that one anytime soon. Moving over to the question period, Mark Carney getting some real questions now.
Your critics are going to say that this is an elbows down approach, that you're backing down to Trump. What are you...
Here's why a recession in the U.S. would spell almost certain catastrophe. With the word recession on everyone's lips again, it's absolutely critical for everyone to understand the mechanics of what actually happens in a recession, and it's not great. Here's why a recession would spell almost certain doom for the U.S. economy and serve as a margin all economy. So first we have to get the context of where we were started. Here's the fiscal deficit, which is the difference between a government collects revenue and spend. That's different than all the deficit. Here in white, different as a share of, and then we're looking at red shaded section, all the components are going to show the official recession. What we can see, unemployment spikes during the recession, and the deficit, the general idea is running larger deficit, stimulate your way out to jumpstart the economy. And once unemployment starts to come back down again, the economy is starting to heat up again. And come out of the recession, you bring your deficit back down. Well, that is not what has been happening since 2007. We're running an ever larger deficit. In fact, it is 7 times larger than it was in 2007, and that is despite the unemployment rate actually being lower. This is what is referred to as a pro-cyclical deficit. It should be noted it is actually closer to 7% of GDP. This is slightly bad data. 7% of GDP has only been reached twice before, 2020 and 2008, at least in the context of this chart, looking at it as a share of GDP. 2008, global economy was screeching to a halt, and 2020, the same thing happened. So that is the deficit that we are currently running today. That is our starting point for the rest of the year. Here is government spending as a share of GDP, which has doubled over the past 7 years. Meanwhile, federal revenue as a share of GDP has gone straight sideways, bouncing between about 15 and 17%. That is despite government spending doubling. So remember, the deficit is the difference between what the government spends and what it collects. Well, what it's collecting is going nowhere, and spending has doubled as a share of the total U.S. economy. It's also important to point out that during a recession, two of the opposite things happen from what we would like to see. Number one, spending is going up, and as if that wasn't bad enough, revenue is falling. It should be noted revenue has been falling more and more as the economy has become more and more hyper-financialized. The amount that revenue is falling is decreasing, and that is due to, in part, the hyper-financialization of the economy, which we have covered extensively in other videos. We're going to do it here. Here is that federal tax revenue logarithmic graph. Here are some declines of various recessions, which are again the shaded red areas. We can see 2008 revenue declined by 18.3%, 2001 by 11.3%, so on and so forth. Well, if you look at post-2000, again, this is really when the U.S. economy is most analogous to where it is today. We are in a totally different economic structure than we were in the 90s or 80s, certainly the 70s, 60s, 50s. Before, the U.S. has run ever larger account deficits, the dollar has become more and more value, therefore the U.S. economy has become more hyper-financialized. There are a number of critical Things that started to change arguably in the mid to late 80s, but certainly by the 90s. So it's important to look at some of these dynamics, some of this math, in terms of the way it would be today. And I think it's safe to say that we should look at the past 20 to 25 years for the most analogous comparison to how a recession would have been. Today's day and age, so we're going to use 2020, 2008, 2001, the dot-com level, for
Rising up out of sprawling ranchland in North Texas, there's two giant new buildings.
The first one in the distance is an operating clean room. The one closer to us is the second factory that today is a shell.
And they're just the start of Texas Instruments' $60 billion 7-plant project, officially announced in July.
Yeah, this site long-term will produce hundreds of millions of chips every day.
Texas Instruments is making a big bet that companies will want to make a lot of chips on U.S. soil. And in August, Apple made a big new commitment to do, in part, just that, amidst Trump's new promise of a 100% tariff on chips from companies that are not making in the U.S.
Apple is leading the creation of an end-to-end silicon supply chain right here in America. In Texas, we're working with manufacturers like Texas Instruments, Global Wafers America, and Applied Materials.
Apple has committed to making critical foundational chips for iPhones and other devices at TI's new fabs, and to supporting tool installations to make it happen. Something we got to see in action in Sherman, Texas.
We are the first ever media to get inside this massive factory in North Texas. The whole campus is going to be bigger than 70 football fields or 2 Empire State Buildings laid side by side.
Though Texas Instruments doesn't make the world's most advanced chips, championed by the likes of TSMC and Samsung, its essential components are everywhere, in smartphones, cars, and data centers powering generative AI, with big customers like NVIDIA, Ford, Medtronic, and SpaceX. Still, in July, TI shares plummeted amidst tariff concerns after its latest earnings report, although they've bounced back some since.
The worries their end customers, like in the wake of tariff uncertainty, they don't know what to expect. Are they stockpiling?
Which has some asking, will future demand be strong enough for TI's huge spend to pay off? It's building 4 fabs here in Sherman, 1 outside Dallas, and 2 in Lehigh, Utah.
We would have more than 5x of the capacity that we have today when all of these fabs build out.
5x is a lot. Do you think the market is going to need all that?
Yeah, when you think about the semiconductor content growth, it continues to grow.
We went to Sherman for this never-before-seen look inside Texas Instruments' newest fab, and to ask top leaders why, despite tariffs and decreased market share, this huge investment makes sense now. When we first visited the Sherman fab, SM1, 2 years ago, it was just a concrete shell.
We're standing under the waffle table. That's what it's commonly called. So it's a clean room up top. The air comes through.
Now it's fully built. So we had to gown up in bunny suits to enter the operational fab, protecting the ultra-precise chip-making process from our hair and skin particles.
So as the wafers come out of the little box, they're going into a very clean environment within each tool. So there's over 15 miles of this automated track.
Mike Haggerty has been with TI for 16 years. He showed us different tools and steps in the chip-making process.
The equipment in this room is called CMP, for chemical mechanical polish.
SM1 is currently in qualification, testing everything out before entering full production by the end of the year.
These tools are how our design become a reality on a wafer.
And how many wafers are going through here, like, let's say, in the 10 minutes we've been standing here?
These tools are very fast. They're processing hundreds of wafers every hour.
PI was originally founded in 1930 as Geophysical Service Incorporated for oil exploration and later military electronics. In 1951, it was reimagined by 4 Dallas engineers and given its new name, Texas Instruments.
Texas Instruments is not just the company that makes your graphing calculators. It's actually responsible for the first ever integrated circuit more than 60 years ago.
While TI does still make its ubiquitous graphing calculators, its defining moment came in 1958, when TI engineer Jack Kilby filed the first patent for an integrated circuit. It paved the way for miniaturizing chips by building all the components of a circuit, not just the transistors, directly into a single piece of silicon.
And it's helped spawn really a pretty large industry and the electronics that we carry today.
With TI for 24 years, Mohammed Yunus now runs technology development and global manufacturing. Unlike the costly, bleeding-edge 2 and 3 nanometer chips being pioneered by TSMC and Samsung, Yunus says TI's core business, analog and embedded chips, are made on cheaper legacy nodes, 45 to 130 nanometer.
Which we believe is the sweet spot for analog and embedded because they provide the right performance, the power, the voltage that our portfolio needs.
Analog chips process signals from the real world, like sound, light, and pressure. Think the temperature on a thermostat or voltage on power management chips that keep electronics safe when plugged in. Embedded chips, TI's other major silicon product, are signal processors and microcontrollers for operating everyday devices, like telling the toaster to ding, the dishwasher to end a cycle, or anti-lock brakes to engage. TI sells the majority of its chips to industrial and automotive customers.
We tore down a Tesla Model 3, and to my surprise, they had among the most, if not the most, content of any chip supplier in the car.
That's the foundational nature of the products that we build. We have over 100,000 customers and about 80,000 different products. We say that if you have anything that plugs into the wall or has a battery in it or has a cord in it, you probably carry more than one TI chip in it.
Another pioneering moment came in 2009, when TI opened the world's first 300mm fab for analog chips, repurposing a memory fab after DRAM maker Kimanda went bankrupt in the financial crisis.
And people were like, wow, they're making this lagging edge technology on leading edge 300mm fab. But that's what really was the catalyst for TI to have such a cost advantage.
Yeah, 300mm wafer has about 2.3 times more chips in it versus a 200mm wafer, and you get tremendous cost efficiency.
Have other analog companies followed suit and now make on 300mm compared to 200?
There are a few, I would say, but there are very few companies who design, develop the technology, and manufacture semiconductor, the whole value chain, that do it in 300mm and at the scale that we do today.
TI has been closing and selling off some of its 200mm fabs, making way for the 300mm wafers that all 7 new fabs will pump out.
They win, not because they have like 100% share of any one thing. It's that they are the one who, opens their jacket like, hey, I have this, I can offer you all this stuff, right? And nobody else can do that.
TI says it's the country's biggest analog and embedded semiconductor manufacturer. It sells tens of billions of chips each year, but they're cheap, especially compared to the CPUs and GPUs sold by giants like NVIDIA.
NVIDIA sells one GPU for $35,000, and they're selling a part for 40 cents.
TI's affordable chips do play critical supporting roles for AI. In a new partnership with NVIDIA, for example, TI is developing a new type of chip to drive efficiency in power-hungry data centers.
The amount of chips that go around the GPU to power it, and the signal chain chips that go around it, there are quite a few of them in an AI system.
But in 2020, it was the auto and industrial industries that suffered when TI was hit hard by the chip shortage, unable to keep up with customer demand.
Everyone was yelling and screaming about TI and saying, look, you're the poster child. I have to shut down my factory because I can't get your 40-cent part. TI's market share of analog industry revenue fell off a cliff. And their response has been, we're going to go out and we're going to build a bunch of factories. We're going to make sure that capacity is never going to cause us a problem.
Then came tariffs. In July, TI shares plunged over concerns about what tariffs mean for demand, although they have bounced back some since.
Is there a pull forward of demand, trying to get purchases in front of potential tariffs? And I do think we're seeing some of that. It's one reason I've been a little more lukewarm on the broader analog space.
But not everyone is concerned.
I would position them as more of a tariff winner than a tariff loser. If you're one of TI's competitors and you're using a foundry, let's say, and the foundry probably is in Taiwan, that chip is going to be more expensive than the same chip that TI will make because TI is making it in the U.S.
But despite its name and about 75% of capex here in the U.S., Texas Instruments is not only making chips domestically, it also makes chips at 4 fabs abroad, in Germany, Japan, and China, and does testing and assembly in Mexico, Taiwan, the Philippines, and Malaysia, where it's spending some $3 billion on 2 new sites, one of which is now in production. As for international sales, about 60% of revenue actually comes from customers based outside the U.S. China alone accounts for 20%, which exposes TI to geopolitical tensions and tariffs China is imposing on U.S. goods.
They have some wafer fab capacity actually in China, so they can offset some of that.
Tariffs is a dynamic situation right now. Our global footprint and our manufacturing across 15 different sites provides us the position to be able to support our customers no matter where they are and in any political or economic environment.
In fact, going international was a real possibility when TI was selecting the site for this massive expansion. The decision came down to 2 very different options, Singapore and Sherman, Texas, a small city 60 miles north of Dallas.
We are the hub of the Silicon Prairie.
Sherman, with some 50,000 people, is also home to a global wafers factory. The Taiwan-based company makes those bare silicon wafers that chips, including TIs, are made on.
When choosing between doing this project overseas or here in this community, the independence that it gives this country and also the independence it gives Texas Instruments to have their products sourced here locally is huge.
Sean Tiemann became mayor in November. His family landed in the area 2 generations ago when his grandfather worked alongside Jack Kilby at TI.
He holds 78 patents in the semiconductor industry.
And this isn't TI's first time making chips in Sherman. It built a 150-millimeter fab here in 1966. When TI announced plans to close it in 2020, the local government worked on incentives to entice TI to stay.
We were able to offset some of their tax liabilities and also help them with some water rate discounts.
Now Highway 75's been expanded, downtown has new businesses, summer concerts, and a growing population. As for federal support, TI got $1.6 billion of CHIPS Act funding, plus a whopping 35% investment tax credit. That's an increase within Trump's big bill for those breaking ground on fabs before the end of 2026. At the state level, Governor Greg Abbott has long offered incentives to chip companies willing to build here, from low taxes to the $1.4 billion Texas CHIPS Act passed in 2023.
Because we have ports, because we have access to materials, because of our low cost of doing business, we are best situated to lead this next generation of chip manufacturing.
Samsung is the other chip giant in Texas since 1996. It's building a $17 billion advanced chip fab near Austin, where Apple, Amazon, and AMD design many of their chips. Other chip makers in Texas include Infineon, NXP, XFAB, Micron, Global Foundries, and tool supplier Applied Materials. But why Sherman?
We have the resources like water and electricity here locally that most cities don't have across Texas or anywhere else, really.
Indeed, making chips takes a lot of power and water, and both have a history of being scarce in Texas.
The semiconductor industry here in our community, and largely driven by Texas Instruments, almost doubles the amount of water that our city was using.
When this factory is fully built out, we would use about 1,700 gallons per minute.
TI's immediate target is to recycle at least 50% of that.
And potentially achieve up to 80% water recycled rate in this facility.
Texas is hot, with about a quarter of the state in drought. But in Sherman, there's Lake Texoma.
We treat our own water. We pull it from Lake Texoma. We have water rights, which most communities don't have.
Chip manufacturing is also a power-hungry process. By some estimates, we're going to run out of power by 2030. What's your plan?
This 300-millimeter manufacturing actually drives in energy efficiency. You use pretty much the same amount of energy, but produce 2.2, 2.3x more chip. But also, I'm really proud to say that this factory, when it's in production, 100% of the energy is renewable.
Texas's uniquely independent grid largely cuts it off from borrowing power across state lines. In 2021, that grid failed during an extreme winter storm, causing at least 57 deaths, and halting production at chip makers like Samsung and NXP, although TI says it maintained critical operations.
We built redundancy into this facility. We have multiple transmission lines that feed power into the site. We also have large diesel storage tanks and generators that can continue to power the site for a few days.
It also helps that Sherman has a power plant in town, which recently increased capacity. Highly skilled chip engineers are another scarce resource, a talent pipeline that's been stymied by the dramatic decline of U.S. global semiconductor manufacturing share over the last 3 decades.
Analog engineers are pretty sparse to begin with. So there's a lot of younger people moving to the area. I actually think it's going to be easier for them to get the talent now than it would have been 5 to 10 years ago.
With the full $60 billion project, TI says it will create 60,000 U.S. jobs.
We partner with universities to develop engineers, but we also partner with the military with skilled workforce development to develop the right kind of talent that we need as we continue to grow here.
As for whether this massive increase in capex is too much,
they're making a big bet on the fact that they regain share and that demand comes rocketing back. If you don't regain that share, it's hard to justify building this much capacity.
Back in Sherman, we got a sneak peek into the shell of SM2.
And then long term, all 4 factories on this site will be connected together with 1 clean room, 1 overhead track.
TI wouldn't divulge a target completion date, but it does plan to make a lot more chips on U.S. soil one day. Can you share anything specific about timing?
No, it's hard to predict when exactly that will take off. We're hopeful that we'll continue to build out at pretty first pace, but it really depends on the market.
But there's also a time in a game where you want the puck, you want to stick handle, you want to pass, you want to put the puck in the net. And we're moving later into the game. We're at that time.
Today is the day that the entire script of the Elbows turned into a tombstone. We have the Elbows Up fans across the country oblivious of how bad they got played. In today's report, we have Mark Carney providing an update to the Canada-US hockey match. He starts off with elbows up and now describes that Canada has the puck and is about to score huge. You honestly can't make any of this stuff up. We have mainstream media go on full attack mode against Pierre Poilievre, and the reason that this is happening is we are so bad, Canada. Pierre Poilievre, we have brand new breaking information that the conservative fans across the country are really going to like. Let's get into this report. As the National Roast published on his X account, a celebration of life for the Elbows Up. We will never forget you. We're going to take a look at Mark Carney's press conference. Then we're going to take a look at Donald Trump's press conference. The Elbows Up crowd in Canada got played. Get your puke bags ready. Here we go.
Some breaking news on the trade front out of D.C. Eamon Jabbers with that front. Eamon.
Sarah, that's right. We're now getting a reaction from the White House to those reports that Canada is going to pull back on its retaliatory tariffs. You remember that Canada was one of the countries to react with retaliatory tariffs of their own after the Trump administration this spring put tariffs on Canada. Now the report is that Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney is going to roll back those tariffs, and we've got a reaction now from a White House official here in Washington who says, "We welcome this move by Canada, which is long overdue. We look forward to continuing our discussions with Canada on the administration's trade and national security concerns." So clearly, talks ongoing between the United States and Canada. We know that Carney and Trump spoke by telephone yesterday. The question is when we might see some kind of broader trade agreement between the U.S. and Canada. Those talks have been on again, off again, not really very successful during the course of the summer. This move, though, might be the kind of thing where you can see the logjam starting to break and maybe heading toward some kind of arrangement after that phone call yesterday. Sarah, back to you.
What did Canada receive for all of these reductions in many of the retaliatory tariffs on the U.S.? Can you believe it, Canada? We have officially removed all the counter tariffs on the United States. and the elbows up has turned into a tombstone. We have not received any concessions from the United States.
I'm announcing today that the Canadian government will now match the United States by removing all of Canada's tariffs on U.S. goods specifically covered under CUSMA.
Lyle Cran on X has published a picture of Tim Houston and Doug Ford at the Prime Minister's office. Let's hear from the Prime Minister because he has an update for Canadians on the massive hockey match between Canada and the United States. Before I show you the hockey match update clip, the Liberals always want to spin a loss into a win somehow. They will never accept defeat in any kind of way, but the problem is, how do you spin a loss when you sold Canadians that you would be scoring unlimited goals and winning the match? How do you spin it for a win? That's the question. Just so that people are aware, we had CUSMA before the election. So anything that followed into CUSMA was getting no tariffs. But anything outside of CUSMA would receive the massive tariffs. But since the election, we have now 35% tariffs on everything that's not CUSMA and 50% tariffs on steel, aluminum, copper, you name it. We have just received zero concessions from Donald Trump, and we have dropped the digital service tax the day it was supposed to be implemented, pissing off Donald Trump. And now we have removed all of the counter tariffs on CUSMA with zero concessions from the United States on anything. Quebec said yesterday it would dump all of their U.S. liquor. Hopefully, they did not. Let's go.
Your critics are going to say that this is an elbows down approach, that you're backing down to Trump. What are you gaining by dropping these tariffs?
So the first thing to say is, let's be clear. We have the best deal of anyone in the world right now. With the lowest tariff rate on average, a little over 5.5% versus that 16% average. The world, in many cases, is much higher.
And we had the best deal with the United States before Mark Carney even showed up into the picture. So what is he talking about?
We had that confirmed, an executive order of the president 2 weeks ago. It's important that we preserve that. It's important that we preserve that. Well, we focus on two things. The strategic sectors, steel, aluminum, autos, lumber, and we focus on the upcoming review and likely changes to CUSMA.
So basically, we removed all the counter tariffs, received zero concessions. We still have CUSMA, which we had before Mark Carney showed up to the picture, and now we are expected to believe that he's going to get us the best deal in the new negotiations with the USMCA. Okay, I got it.
We are matching something the Americans have done.
So he's admitting that their strategy was dumb.
And it's very significant. It's unique. We get the benefit. The second thing is, and I'll take your analogy. And I have played some hockey over the years. And there is a time in a game, in a big game, and this is a big game, when you go hard in the corners, your elbows up. The time in the game, you drop the gloves in the first period and send a message. And we've done that. Pretty unique in the world. We happen to have the best deal with the Americans. I've done. But there's also a time in a game where you want the puck, stick handle, you want to pass, you want to put the puck in the net. And we're moving later into the game. We're at that time of the game. That's where the engagement.
Oh my goodness. Now we're taking the puck, we're stick handling, and we're about to score on the United States. Did you get all that, Canada? This picture provides 1,000 words. This is exactly how Canada is. The elbows up thing was one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my entire life. Just so that people understand, in hockey, if you elbow somebody in the head, it's a 5-minute major and kicked out of the game. And the reason is, you never elbow anybody in the head. That is a respectful thing in hockey. It's all about respect. You would be booted. You could potentially be fined millions of dollars and suspended for the remainder of the season. But somehow, that's what our brilliant Liberal government thought would be a winning strategy. Elbows up. I'm surprised we didn't get booted out of the game, but this is actually what happened in this elbows up game that the Liberals played. Canada, in fact, received a 5-minute major penalty, shoved into the box, while the U.S. scored on us repeatedly. Eventually, Canada got out of the box without its stick. We forgot our stick in the box and were chasing the puck around the rink without a stick. This elbows thing made Canada look like a pathetic country. We are honestly being led by one of the dumbest governments in Canadian history. I hope the elbows up crowd are proud today. I just posted on my Twitter X, breaking news, Canada has officially pulled the goalie and removed all the players from the ice surface. Mainstream media is exploding right now.
Sir Mark Carney will initially face criticism for supposedly lowering his elbows and weakening in the face of Trump's threats.
I expect he will face that criticism.
Elbows down. Does this look like a man that is winning the trade war against the United States? The news gets even more wild. Check out what Donald Trump says.
A very good call with Prime Minister Carney of Canada yesterday morning.
Yes.
Canada is taking away some retaliatory tariffs.
He's removing his tariffs. He's removing his retaliatory tariffs, which I thought was nice. And we're going to have another call soon. Yeah, we had a very good call.
Getting closer towards
I like them. I like them. You know, look, I'm fighting for the United States. Canada and Mexico take a lot of our business over the years, over 25, 30 years, especially during the Biden years. They took a lot of our business, and it's basically all coming back into the United States now. Hot as a pistol, and it's coming back in. Because of tariffs and the incentives we give, it's coming back. And it's impossible, I think, for another country to stop it. And we are working on something. We want to be very good to Canada. I like Carney a lot. I think he's a good person. And we had a very good talk yesterday, so I think it'll be good.
Holy crap! Did you get all that? Businesses, and he's not wrong, businesses and money is flooding out of Canada and going into the United States, and the person that is responsible for all of it is the wonderful Mark Carney. No wonder Donald Trump is so happy to have Mark Carney in charge of Canada with the Liberals, because over the last decade, the amount of money that has flooded out of Canada into the United States, making us weak. We've had zero GDP per capita growth over the last decade. Of course he wants to cozy up with the Liberals. They're decimating this country, and he can just abstract anything he wants. You know, the elbows up crowd got tricked. All of them got tricked. We tried to warn the elbows up crowd. 43% of us said, please, Canada, wake up. They're in bed together. Elbows up. And Mark Carney and Donald Trump are business partners. They're going to abstract all of the resources and make deals and have all of the businesses go into the United States. Mark Carney, 94% of all his assets are located in the U.S. He wants the U.S. to prosper, and he has 0.5% of all of his assets in Canada. He didn't put his money where his mouth is and support Canada businesses. No, it's all in the U.S. So Donald Trump did not want Pierre Poilievre to run Canada because he would actually put up a fight. Mark Carney's not putting up any fight. Elbows down. It was all a mirage. How do we know that mainstream media is starting to lose control? And they are furious because guess who's back? Pierre Poilievre. So they come out with this hit piece against Pierre, and it's all over the place. It's not just CTV, it's everywhere. Half of Canadians would be ashamed to call Pierre Poilievre PM as Tory leader wins back a seat in Parliament. Angus Reid report. Let's look into this report. This is from the Angus Reid Institute, and you can see right here, it says Pierre Poilievre is someone that I'd be ashamed to call Prime Minister. And it shows 2023 and now 50% in August 2025. But let's take a look at some of the statistics behind that number. I want to show you this as well. Pierre Poilievre sounded too much like Donald Trump. The Liberal voters said 92% said yes. That's how brainwashed the country is. This is unbelievable. if we just saw the elbows down, Donald Trump and Mark Carney are best friends. You want to know how we know this polling is garbage? They only sampled 2,000 Canadians. There's 41 million Canadians in this country, and let's see where they polled these people. You can see the sample size right here. It is 2020. In BC, 275. Alberta, 217. Saskatchewan, 136. Manitoba, 136. Ontario, 629. Quebec, 481. And Atlantic Canada, 145. Oh, and it gets better. Check out the geotype. Urban or rural? They're almost all urban. You know the rural areas were the ones that voted conservative? Urban's like straight up liberal. Oh, and you're going to love this one. 55 plus is the majority. Look, 783 are 55 years and over. 18 to 34, 556. The main voting people, the cohorts, 35 to 54, the people that actually work in this country, 681. So it's definitely skewed towards the liberal voters that are 18 to 34 and above 55 that are not working in this economy. Oh, and they also selected more women than men. And just so people are aware, over 50% of the population of Ontario voted for the Liberals. And in Quebec, Liberals also got some support. So basically, this survey surveyed 2,020 people that are liberal. And then all of the social media across Canada picked this up and goes, wow, 50% really don't like Pierre Poilievre. And we just got some breaking news. If an election was held today, which national party would you vote for? This is all the polling put together so you get the average. And you can see where the red line is the Liberals. They went above the Conservatives and they won the election. And if you look at the very end, it says 43% and 40% as of August 7th. We just got a new release of new information. David Coletto says a new Abacus data poll. We're going to get a new poll on Sunday. The poll is out this weekend, shows that the Conservatives marginally ahead of the Liberals for the first time in 6 months. Oh, this is so sweet. So their hit piece on Pierre Poilievre was for a reason. They are freaking out in Canada. We are so bad, Canada. The Conservatives are officially ahead of the Liberals in the polling. But let's take a look at some of these comments. One says, no way. So that's why all the attacking by the media. Interesting. And another one says, how is this possible? I thought Carney was sweeping the nation. And another, yet the legacy media narrative is that the Conservative support is plummeting. How are the Elbows Up doing today? We got a post from Brian Garrickson. How many Elbows Up supporters over the last while came into my comment section and said Canada isn't putting tariffs on Kuzma products? Show me the proof. Blah, blah, blah. Here you go, clowns. Straight from the source for all the Elbows Up to see. Canada currently the best trade deal with the United States. 85% of our exports to the United States are tariff-free. To preserve Canada's unique advantage, we're matching the U.S. by removing our tariffs on U.S. goods covered by Kuzma. Holy crap. Boom. We got to see from more Elbows Up. Ryan again. According to Dean Blundell, it is Carney who is obviously playing the 3D chess. Removing retaliatory tariffs was like a F you to Trump. The mental gymnastic that these individuals are fighting through is insane. And here is Dean Blundell's post. And by the way, Dean Blundell has blocked me, and I've never spoken to that man in my life. Dean says, Mark Carney removed retaliatory tariffs on Kuzma products. Trump demanded that Carney remove the tariffs for months. It's a chess piece he keeps on the board until it serves Canada's purpose to remove it. These people are absolutely insane. And here's the title of the article. Mark Carney told Trump to go F yourself politely yesterday again. Carney won't pay ransom for illegal tariffs, and he's building a country that never needs permission from Washington again. These people need medication. Who's ready for the mic drop moment? What are the Conservatives saying about today's elbow situation with Donald Trump?
That despite the tariffs in place, Canada still has the least punitive trade arrangement with the United States of any major economy. And if not, can you think of a country or a bloc that has a better deal right now than Canada?
By the way, this is mainstream media thinking they have I gotcha moment for Pierre Poilievre. Watch his response.
Well, most countries have a better deal in reality because none of them have the same dependency on the American economy we do. So, I mean, there's two parts to this. One, any access we have today is the result of Brian Mulroney. Let's be clear. There's not a single tariff-free item that's going to the United States that was not negotiated by Prime Minister Mulroney. I challenge any...
You know, in Canada, it's not just elbows that are up, it's also prices at grocery stores and other places like Walmart. We're going to discuss it in today's video. Canada in 2025. Get those elbows ready because you're going to need it when you're on your hands and knees crying at your grocery bill.
Hello, shopping for dessert and snacks in Chatham, Ontario at Walmart. Just getting some chips, the Doritos nacho cheese. They came to $3.87. One of these cakes for $8.86. These cakes were really good. And a container of strawberries for $1.94. It's a good price for strawberries. So those three items came to $15.17 with 60 cents HST tax. Let me know what your prices are for these items. We don't usually pay any taxes. This is saying 60 cents. It might have been because it was the Doritos. But let me know in the comments about different cities and towns.
Now, I have to say, I know I'm talking about grocery inflation in this video, and a lot of the prices were shocking that she did show, especially the cake and the chips being like $4 for Doritos now is literally nuts. But the fact that she was able to get strawberries for under $2 is exceedingly rare. Really, really rare. Like, I never find strawberries for that price, so good on her for finding it for that price. I haven't seen that since pre-COVID days. But again, the other groceries on that list, still shocking prices.
What the fuck, Canada? I sent my husband out to go get a couple of groceries. Some vegetables, potatoes, a small carton of milk, and some salad dressing. And here was the bill. How are people making it out there? So I'm in the Ottawa, Ontario area. Minimum wage here is just over $17 an hour. For what we got, you would have to work 4 fucking hours for some fucking vegetables and some milk. A townhouse in my area, you know what it sells for? $700,000. This is absolutely infuriating, and I want to vomit all over the place. We don't even have children. I can't even imagine, like, families out there in Canada, what are you doing? How are you doing this? I'm not boasting by saying this, but thank God I am building some income streams online because this is forecasted to get worse in the next 5 or 10 years. Where are the riots? When are they happening? Can somebody fill me in? Because I am going to march my ass down to Ottawa Parliament with my flag and raise fucking hell. I also just want to quickly point out that romaine lettuce, 2 packages of romaine lettuce, $16 for a fucking leaf. I have to quit ranting before I absolutely blow smoke out of my head.
Yeah, of course you're going to spend all that on a leaf. You're living in the country with the flag that has a big leaf on it. So pay up and elbows up. Pay up and elbows up as well.
This number is way worse than estimated by any economist. Canada's economy shed over 40,000 jobs in July. This partly offset most of the gains that we saw earlier this year, especially with a lot of jobs created because of the election. And there's a couple of key points to note in StatsCan breakdown on this. Number one is that the unemployment rate was basically unchanged, and this is because a lot of people stopped looking for work. It changed the labor force composition. But the employment level decreased at an annualized rate of over 2%, just 20 basis points from last month, after we saw an increase in the employment rate in June. The key data point from this release from StatCan, though, is youth unemployment, which reached its highest level since 2010. You can see the ever-increasing youth unemployment rate here. But the scarier part comes when you look at the youth employment rate, which includes all youth, is almost at 50%. This means that almost half of young people aren't working. So I posted in the past how economists weren't seeing more rate cuts in Canada, but between this data and an almost 90% chance of a Fed cut in September, I think there's clear runway for more cuts.
The thing that's scary about what he was outlining, and obviously the 40,000 jobs being gone, is pretty terrifying. You know, losing all those jobs in 1 month in July, expecting it to have a bounce back in August is very unlikely. But the fact that a lot of those people who've lost their jobs have just stopped looking completely, and a lot of them are also people who are still relatively young. Youth unemployment is the highest it's ever been since 2010. Where are they going to have money to spend on these high-priced groceries? Where? Are they going to go to the food bank, which has also been growing in numbers over the last few years? Of course, that's the only place you can go now, or just a donation center, or maybe they'll be homeless.
But what the fuck is going on in Canada? Look, seriously. For God's sake. I went to the grocery store today. Not for a big shop. Nothing wild and crazy. Just 8 items. A zucchini, a tiny bag of carrots, 3 stalks of celery, 5 red potatoes, 4 small packets of lunch meat. Where the hell was the cheap lunch meat? Doesn't even exist anymore. Some rice noodles, a packet of instant coffee, some drinking water. It came to $69.09. Like, that wasn't meat for dinner, nothing fancy anything. So, no treats. Now, I know that might not seem very much to some of you, but damn it, I live on a fixed income. So does my son. You know, I'm the caregiver for him. I'm a senior mom. I'm the sole caregiver for my son. He's on a disability. I'm not out here buying lobster and champagne, and neither is here. I'm out here buying some juice boxes and some cheap, so-called cheap sandwich meat. And now I'm seriously thinking of locking up the sandwich meat in my fridge and handing it out 1 slice at a time, like it's prescription narcotics. 1 slice of bread at a time. Son, you want some water? You're going to have to earn it by doing some dishes. He's 50. He shouldn't have to earn a drink of water. Because now, simple joy is a luxury. Grapes, out of the question. Walk right past the grapes. Grapes are a luxury. Grapes are a luxury. So, 1 bag of potatoes, a 5-pound bag of potatoes costs $10. I mean, I'm done. I'm done. I'm done pretending that this is normal. This is full-on corporate greed. Full stop. Corporate greed. They don't give a shit if you don't like the prices. Let's be real. How are people surviving this? It was bad in March when I worked in the grocery store. It's worse now. Maybe people aren't surviving this. What job pays enough to have a mental breakdown so that you don't have a mental breakdown in the grocery store? I see people walking out of the store and they look like they're in a state of trauma.
Yeah, she did bring up a good point about deli meats as well. What is going on with, like, lunch meats? That used to be the cheapest. You could find bags and packages for like $1 to $3 literally 7 or 8 years ago. I remember, like, I didn't even like doing it because I felt cheap. You know, going to the grocery store and grabbing some, like, white bread and then throwing on some little meat slices on there. Felt like I was having a packed lunch at school. Didn't really like it. I was never really a massive fan of deli meats, but now, even if I was a fan, I'm not spending the prices. I recently went to the grocery store and I saw a pack of Maple Leaf. It was $15. Or, like, it probably could maybe make, if you're lucky, 3 sandwiches. 15.
I got $1.50, girl, I'm feeling risky.
And budgeting and stuff, and she mentioned she just doesn't understand how young people are affording to live these days because salaries just have not caught up to the cost of living. And yeah, she's right. I told her you just have to be so strategic about it these days. I mean, I'm 26 and I make low six figures now, and I'm so grateful for it, but it's definitely not what I thought it would be. The reality I've learned is that you really have to be so intentional with your money in order to set yourself up well. I mean, I feel very lucky that I can invest into my 401k and save on top of that.
She's 1,000% correct. Mister, look up real quick for a news story. Look up how many people in America make $100,000 a year. I think it's around like 20% or something like that. But before Nestor started working with me, I made a video one time where I said, hey, I made 100 grand this year. And I drive a 2007 Iu943 Grand Marquis, which is like, which should be a $5,000 car, now it's a $10,000 car. And the amount of people in the comments section were like, you piece of shit, bragging about making 100 grand a year. I thought it was kind of funny, Nestor. It was like, it was actually like, I was just being transparent. And the whole reason I brought this up was not to brag about making $100,000 a year. I could give a shit. I just like, I'm happy to work for myself, right? The point of it is a man with no bills is a rich man. That was kind of my point. Now I can understand if I was like, look at my Porsche and the pool on me and my smoking hot girlfriend and new fake tits that I just bought her. I can understand that, like flexing. But it was one of those weird things where, like, talking about money is so sensitive. It's like this weird thing. But the truth is making $100K a year, $8,000 a month, which I believe in most of you, I think you could get close to that, or even more, right? Like, how many people make $100K a year according to whatever the fuck you're looking it up on?
18% of individual Americans and about 34% of U.S. households combined.
Okay. But, like, for instance, let's see where she's going with this, but I can tell you right now, just with my 2007, okay, I have another car too, a 1985, which cost me $9,000, that I bought over the course of years, when I was making 50 grand a year. You know what's funny? When I was making 50 grand a year, and I said, I make 50 grand a year and I have 2 roommates, it was like, slaps. Does that make sense? But the truth is making $100K a year nowadays in America, it's still great money, but only if you make it that way. So I kept the same bills that I had making 55 grand a year that I do now, making substantially more than 50 grand a year. You guys taking notes? A man with no bills is a rich man. And this is financial advice. You can't get rich nowadays for vanity. For practicality.
Hopefully it pays off in the future, but I definitely don't have as much money left over for fun as I thought I would at this income level. I graduated college in 2021, right as inflation was like really spiky and the housing market was just going insane. And so my husband and I literally had to save up $100,000 just to buy like a small house outside the city and not be house poor. And we couldn't do that before interest rates also went up really high. And when I first graduated, I only made like $55,000, and rent easily took up 35% of my take-home pay without investing, and it was like not so great apartment. So I will say I definitely have seen the benefit of growing my income over the years. So I think 100K is still a really good salary, especially compared to what I know others are living on these days. But I think if you want to build wealth, you just have to be so intentional about saving and investing and about getting to that salary range these days, because it's definitely not the same as it used to be. So what do y'all think? Do y'all think 100K is still like an aspirational benchmark salary to get to? Or what number do you think would actually feel comfortable living on in 2025?
Yeah, that's my favorite when people say, they go, 100K just ain't enough. I mean, Nestor, would you be happy making 100K a year?
I'd be thrilled.
Yeah, he'd be jumping out of his skin. He'd be like, but the truth is it can go quick. You start making $8 grand a month, you could easily start, half of that could easily just go to bills. Like, if you allow it to be that way, is what I'm saying. Like, I'm just a regular dude who likes to talk shit on the internet, and I want to work an odd job, and yeah, I'm trying to make fucking money. Like Nestor, I want to make as much money as possible, but it's not so that I can. It's not for anything more than being stress free. It has nothing to do with owning cool, expensive car and living in a fucking dope house that I don't need. It has nothing to do with that. That's all. 100K used to be a golden ticket. Yeah, I think it still is. I think it is the golden ticket. Honestly, I really do. I think that's still.
Is the options? I'm saying white one, bro. This has been the new daily for a while. Alright boys, so we just got done with a fucking good ass workout, I'm not even gonna lie. We're both here chilling.
I left my Louis wallet on the ground by my truck for the entirety of my workout.
We literally saw it on the floor when we were walking out of the gym. I'm actually so shocked. This motherfucker has a Louis wallet and it did not get stolen. How does that happen? Keep in mind, this is a $10 a month gym. I'm so shocked that nobody actually took this. But yeah, right now, thank God nobody stole the wallet because that would have took up the rest of this fucking day. Oh man, I would have had the worst day. Closing all the bank cards, closing everything. Dude, just once, I lost my Gucci wallet, right? This is back last year when I used to go out to parties and shit in October. And I left it at a two-year party. And the motherfucker took it right after graduation. And actually it probably wasn't very the factor is so I was like sitting there I'm trying to track down where it was going. It was on the road moving and shit. I'm like, fuck. And then the next day I'm like, I lost everything, ordered new ID and everything. That's why I have 2 IDs now. No, fucking dropped it off and left it going. I'm like, good. Did they win? So out of the way and dropped my wallet. This is my first time here. They took the couch out of it because they're like, we have to get into the party. I was like, oh, fuck my that cash. Because I had like $30 in it. Like, well, I had 8 to the party. Give me my $500. But yeah, boys, they gotta go. I gotta go. Same shit every day. Same shit every day. And you're really not cut out for this shit. Same shit, however, yeah, you gotta always improve. Calculated. Yes, that on day. So it's a day now. Instead of worrying about the future 3 months ahead, worry about what you can do. Sorry. At the end of the day, you can't move the needle where it's at. If that makes sense. You can only roll the ball when the ball's not. Don't let all this procrastination or getting overwhelmed with a bunch of shit. Because I mean, I run 4 businesses, but at the same time, you have to delegate, you have to manage your time and be efficient at the same time as being disciplined. You kind of just gotta play it by ear as it goes, because I mean, like I said, when you do shit in the moment, when you're focusing on what you can do that day in progress, you can make in one day. Really just put your head down, lock in for one day, and at the end of the day, you feel 100 times better than if you just sitting on your ass, fucking off, playing with your balls, and fucking doom scrolling all the day. I don't feel like really makes productive shit done, but I feel like it's total fucking dickhead. Time is the most valuable asset. Environment. Yeah, as soon as you guys dive in, get down that rabbit hole, obviously gonna face airs as well, shit like that, but the sooner you get down it, the sooner you can figure out how to solve these problems. Especially like right now, for example, I'm starting a new product-based outfit, and this is something completely new that I've never done before, but in my mind, I know that I can make it work because of the fact that I've done this shit before with different business models. At the end of the day, it's all about what
to push you closer to your goals. Alright boys, so we're back home at the spot, and as you can see, we're on the phone with Bro again, just grinding, getting to it. I also wanted to show you guys this, but Brandon here, he's been in the group for a long time. Holy shit, I don't know why our monitor is literally tweaking out right now. But before I read this message, as you can see, he's doing about like 3.4k a week right now on this account. I think this is the same account, but he's doing like $500 days, 3.4k weeks. If you want to read what he says, I'm not going to read it, but basically 2 months ago, he had an account that got banned, and he's one of my one-on-one students. So, and long story short, I gave him the rundown to why his account got banned. It's a pretty common issue, but he took the risk and the account got banned. And it was hard for him because he was making really good money with that account especially. Now, I'm not going to lie, Brandon, he did quit TikTok Shop for like a few weeks. I told him not to, but at the end of the day, you just can't control what some people's actions are. Long story short, I was telling him that he had a ton of potential and that he just shouldn't quit because I've seen what the numbers he can do is. And he's barely like 21, so he still has a little bit of time on his hands. Not saying that if you're over 21, you don't have time. I'm just saying he's young, so he has energy. And yeah, he got really discouraged. He quit TikTok Shop for like a few weeks because he didn't have an account. But then he told me that he started growing an account and he finally got one back in the program about a week ago. And yeah, now he's doing $3,000 to $4,000 weeks and $500 days, so that's pretty sick. That's what happens when you guys just stick it through. You guys gotta see it through. Like my boy right here, he hasn't really made much money trading yet. That's what he does mainly is trading. And he also has a few other businesses, but trading's his main thing. He's been doing it for like about 3 months now. Hasn't really seen any big gain. He's had some really good days and really bad days, but at the end of the day, he's just still going at it, trying to get better at his craft. So that's really all that matters is the inputs. So I just got a few more videos to make today for each of my accounts, and then I'm growing a few more into TikTok Shop as well. And so yeah, I'll just keep you guys updated. Boys, we just got done finishing up some work, and we actually just went to In-N-Out, but if I wasn't a dumbass, I would have vlogged it, but I forgot my camera. But anyways, I've been continuously growing this new page for another TikTok Shop account that I wanted. If you guys didn't know already, new accounts in TikTok Shop are going absolutely insane right now. Like, they're getting pushed so hard. Your first few videos, if you know exactly what you're doing, like when you're getting the TikTok Shop, and you know what you're going to post and how you're going to do it, it's a proven strategy that you've done before. Your videos are honestly basically guaranteed to blow up. But yeah, today's date, just so you guys know, is August 17th, I believe. As you guys can see, the account just started going a little bit crazy. The views haven't updated. I've obviously gotten more than 33,000 views. But yeah, this video that I posted on August 16th is sitting at about 100k right now, so it should do pretty good. I mean, it was posted the other day and it's already at 100k, so that means I honestly should get to at least 500k in a few days, if not a million. Posted this one the same exact day and it's at 300,000 views. And then this one was the day before that, but combo like 80,000 views, so not terrible. But yeah, decent start to this new account. Should have this one in the program within a week or two. For one of the active shop pages that I'm posting on right now, I was looking at one.
Let's get more on this optimism today about a rate cut. We're joined by Michael DeHall. He's Senior Portfolio Manager at DeHall Investment Partners at Raymond James. Thanks very much.
Thank you. So it looks as though it was a dovish message from Jay Powell today.
Absolutely. Markets got caught by surprise by Jay Powell's comments being more dovish than hawkish, right? So when we focus more on labor markets on the funds stability.
You were among the observers who thought we might get a hawkish tone from Powell.
Absolutely. We saw with the recent uptick in CPI from CPI numbers in the U.S., we thought it would be more hawkish than dovish, but he did open the door to a rate cut.
People that are moving into U.S. government bonds, they tend to do that when they're less worried about inflation.
Absolutely. I'm saying that's what the bond reaction. The 10-year yield has come down quite significantly this morning. And obviously volatility has decreased, and after markets have shot up this morning.
into our stock market hitting record highs despite the tariff pressure.
Absolutely, right? It's more of a tailwind from the U.S. markets. That's why our TSX is hitting record highs. If you look at the Canadian economy, we are pretty weak. We had 41,000 jobs lost in the month of July. CPI is starting to creep up in Canada as well, right? So there are concerns